We're going to move to turnaround. So invite staff to come up. Boy, we were all over our agenda.
Yeah.
Welcome to Friday.
Yes, so I'll go ahead in interest of time. This is going to be about turnaround and our exit criteria and where we're at with Cohort 3. But before we begin then, we're going to do a quick review of where we're at so far with our 3 cohorts. Can you hear me okay? We're good? Okay. So the Utah State Board of Education is committed to improving the educational outcomes of all students, especially the children from historically underserved populations. With this in mind, one way we do that is by examining the data that is the state performance data. And we do this to identify schools that are most in need of support and help them address their student performance challenges. So we're going to start this item by discussing the most recent schools that are in turnaround, and we're going to work backwards as it lends itself better to introduce the topic of recommendations to the board regarding Cohort 1 turnaround and schools that did not exit. So first of all, we have Cohort 3. So there's a little bit of the mathematics behind this, and I know that there's been some talk about this over the last few months with school turnaround, and additional talk offline if you'd like more information after this session, after this discussion. So Cohort 3, these are schools that were identified during the 2018-19 school year. They were identified by scoring in the bottom 3% of schools for 2 consecutive years in the state accountability system. The LEAs with schools identified in Cohort 3 of school turnaround were notified within the last 2 weeks. These schools are Athenian E Academy High School, Greenwood Charter School, James Madison Elementary in Ogden, Roots Charter School, Navajo Mountain High School in San Juan, Sibinitsi Elementary School in San Juan, and the Utah International Charter School, and Ibapa Elementary School in Tooele. Ibapa. Yeah, I knew I was going to say it wrong. Ibapa. Thank you. So these schools will be participating in a comprehensive needs assessment, a root cause analysis, and selecting a turnaround expert, and developing their school turnaround plan this year. So now we'll move to Cohort 2. Cohort 2 schools were identified during the 2017-18 school year as scoring in the bottom 3% of schools for 2 consecutive years in the state accountability system. The Cohort 2 schools are Dixie Montessori Academy, Guadalupe School, Kennedy Junior High School in Granite, and Paradigm High School, and Utah Virtual Academy. So these schools will be working through their second year of school turnaround and the first year of fully implementing their school turnaround plans. So that gets us to where we're at today. So today is Cohort 1. And this was our very first group. So Cohort 1, these schools were identified in the 2015-16 school year. And they scored in the bottom 3% of schools based on 1 year of data. So that's one of the differing points. Based on 1 year of data in the state accountability system. To exit school turnaround, the Cohort 1 schools needed to improve at least 1 letter grade from the grade with which they were identified. 19 of the 26 Cohort 1 schools successfully exited school turnaround in the fall of 2018. 3 schools demonstrated enough progress toward the exit criteria to qualify for an extension for up to 2 years. 3 schools did not meet the exit criteria and are subject to board action, and that is why we are here today. The schools that did not exit are Oker Hills Elementary School in Granite, Midwell Elementary School in Canyons, and Entheos Academy in Magna. So pursuant to the parameters as established in Board Rule R277920-8, the local board and charter school authorizer will make recommendations to the board on what actions the board should take regarding these plans. and schools. Also pursuant to the requirements in Board Rule R277920-8, a state review panel will make recommendations to the board on what actions the board should take regarding Midvale Elementary and Entheos Academy in Magna. So the way the rest of this discussion will go is we will have the boards come up and present their recommendation, and then we're going to have the state review panel present the recommendations from the board as well. And then we'll turn the time back over to the board, all of you, for discussion on what the recommendations should be in moving forward. So we'll invite, first of all, we are going to invite...
Before we bring everyone up, did somebody have a question? I thought I saw a hand up. I didn't see a light on. Board Member Belknap.
I need clarity on what you just said. Who's coming up to talk?
So we'll have, we have Midvale. We have here
Midvale,
today, yeah.
who?
Oh, yeah, Midvale Elementary School. So we have members of the state board. So we have Nancy Tingy and we have
Oh, their
Mont.
local board.
Yes,
Okay, so now
yes.
I'm getting clear. So their board's going to come up and then
Yes.
who?
And then we'll
the
have the advisory
group.
committee
Thank you.
from USBE's office. Sorry. I'm sorry I wasn't clear. There's a lot of words that I was saying. Yeah, thank you for that question.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to invite up at this time Board Member Nancy Tingy and Mont Millerberg to speak to the Canyon School District recommendations for Midvale Elementary. And I'll scoot over so they can have these seats right over here. Have they been given? That would be up to the you guys, all of you.
So my understanding is we're going to deal with one school at a time.
One school at a time.
Okay. Patty,
Okay.
do we get another chair?
We also have the principal of the school that'd like to come up as well. So I'm going to just slide over and let them be here. And they wanted to know, is there a time limit
I
on
think it's
there?
real important that we have introduction.
Yep, I'm going to come right over.
All right, good afternoon. I'm glad to be here. My name is Nancy Tingy. I'm serving as the president of the Canyons District Board of Education. I would like to thank this board and for allowing the Canyons Board of Education to submit our recommendation regarding the status of Midvale Elementary School at this point in the school turnaround program, as has been explained by Patty. Thank you. I would also like to thank the review panel for the work that they did on and their recommendation, and would just like to say that we do support the recommendation, which you will be hearing on that. And Midvale Elementary is a vital part of our district. Canyons District loves this school and its community. Our board, district administration, and school personnel have been intensely focused on improving the conditions for learning at Midvale Elementary, and that commitment is stronger than ever. I would like to introduce my colleague, Mont Millerberg, a member of the Canyons Board of Education who represents the families that make up Midvale Elementary. Mr. Millerberg serves on the Midvale Elementary Turnaround Committee. Mont.
Thank you. First, I'd like to apologize for not having a jacket and a tie on. I got up this morning and tried to tie a tie. It didn't work. I tried to put my jacket on and it wouldn't fit. So please accept my apologies for not being completely dressed appropriately. Thank you, Nancy, for the introduction, and thank you, Chairman Huntsman and members of the Utah State Board of Education, for allowing us an opportunity to talk about how much Midvale Elementary means to us in Canyons District and how important Midvale is to the community of Midvale. I am a lifelong member, or lifelong resident of Midvale. As a matter of fact, I attended Midvale Elementary School not that many years ago. That is, if you're willing to accept the 50s as not that long ago. Because I live in Midvale and I was educated in Midvale, I can tell you how important it is to the city of Midvale and to Canyon District. The Canyons Board of Education has a strong record of investing in Midvale Elementary's students, and we will continue to do so. I can promise you that we have no intention of decreasing our support for the school. Yes, we acknowledge there are outside of the school factors that create some barriers to learning for Midvale schools. We have a homeless shelter that operates in the city. Our poverty rate is high. And we have a large number of residents who speak a language other than English at home. But we believe the answer to addressing these socioeconomic factors is having strong schools. That is why we used nearly $60 million of a $250 million bond to build the new facility in Midvale. This was the first school dedicated in the new school district. The new middle school in the heart of Midvale opened in 2017. This was done for a specific reason. We care about education in our most challenging part of our district. 2 of the first 13 major projects done by Canyons District are in Midvale. That should signal how much we support the growth of this community. At the same time we invested in the capital facility at Midvale Elementary, we also invested in the faculty and the staff. As a board, we have allocated more resources to pay for extra teachers, administrators, and staff. This is a part of our determination to deliver a quality education to this community. We developed a plan created with input from many stakeholders, including parents, teachers, and education consultants. We have restructured the way that teachers teach and students learn at Midvale Elementary. This plan was created after receiving input from education experts as required by the Turnaround Schools rule. As the Board of Education member who represents the area, I was also involved in the process. And we are encouraged by the results that we are now seeing. Simply put, turning education around at Midvale Elementary is personal to me. I would like to introduce Midvale Elementary Principal Chip Watts, who can tell you a little bit more about how we are turning Midvale Elementary around.
Thank you, Mr. Millerberg, and thank you, members of the board, for the opportunity to come and talk with you a little bit about Midvale Elementary this afternoon. About 4 years ago to the day, I was driving home from work. I was an assistant principal at Union Middle School, and my cell phone rang. It was Mike Sorois, the performance director in the Canyon School District, who was calling me to ask me if I would come and visit with him in his office for a few minutes. I was almost home. I live in Lehigh, but I said, sure, I'll turn around and head back, because that's what you do, right, when someone from the district calls. So I walked into his office, and he was sitting there with a couple other performance directors, and they had these big smiles on their faces, and they said, hey, we have a proposition for you. We have something we want to talk about. And I said, okay, what's that? And they said, well, we have this position that's open at Midvale Elementary School, and we'd like to invite you to go over there as the assistant principal for the rest of the year. This was just the end of January that I got this phone call. They talked a little bit about the school and some of the challenges that they had faced and what they were trying to accomplish. And the assistant principal had just resigned, so the position was open. I thought about it overnight, and I decided, sure, I'll go over to Midvale and see what I can do to help out. A couple months later, I was appointed to be the principal for the next year. And a couple months after that, I got a letter in the mail saying, hey, congratulations, you're a member of the first turnaround cohort in the state of Utah. It's been an interesting few years, to be honest with you, and it's been an interesting experience. We've definitely learned a lot, and we've overcome a lot of challenges and obstacles, but the fact remains that we haven't exited turnaround status. And we tried a lot of things. We've worked very hard, and I think that, to be honest with you, I think that we finally identified the reason why our first turnaround effort didn't work, and that's just, well, there are a variety of reasons. A lot of them have to do, I think, with putting a first-year principal in a turnaround school, with navigating all of the different layers of support that are outlined in the turnaround law, and getting everyone to work together and implement a plan. And we can talk about that more if you want, but About the middle of last year, Dr. Briscoe came out to our school and visited with me in my office and said, hey, it's clear that you guys are going to exit turnaround status, so we need to come up with a new plan. And at that point, I had the opportunity to kind of take control of the turnaround effort at our school and make it more local and more personal to our teachers. There were a lot of people telling us a lot of things that we should do, and to be honest with you, we tried all of them. Anybody that came and said, I think you should try this, we're like, okay, we're a turnaround school, we'll do that. And we were trying so many things. We were trying to do everything, and we weren't doing anything very well. So around the middle of last year, we began to create this restructuring plan. I spent a lot of time talking to my teachers, to my community, and to our district support staff, our turnaround consultants, about why weren't we making progress? What are the gaps that we still need to address? And we came up with a lot of ideas and a lot of great information. In a way, it was kind of like a second root cause analysis. And about a year ago, we had an opportunity to go to the Canyon School District Board and explain to them why our school hadn't exited turnaround status. And if you, Superintendent Dixon, if you could just move to maybe the third slide. This just, you all have this in front of you. This is just kind of a timeline of things that have happened at Midvale since we were identified as a turnaround school. And in February of 2018, a delegation from our school visited with the Canyon School District Board after spending months working on a restructuring plan, and we proposed that plan to our local school board. President Tingey was there, and Mr. Millerberg were there, and I'm not going to go into the details of that restructuring plan. I think you have it as part of the information that the recommendation committee provided for you for this meeting. But it really does, like Mr. Millerberg mentioned, what we've done is change the way that teaching and learning happen at our school. We've narrowed our focus in the way teachers are assigned to subjects. The training and the professional development that we provide has completely changed. The programs and the curriculum that we're using are specifically designed to address the gaps that we've identified and help kids learn at Midvale Elementary. We're lucky to have the support of our school board, who approved our plan and said, yes, let's go ahead and implement this plan in 2018, 2019. We're in the middle of that first school year of implementation, and we're seeing some pretty amazing things happen at our school. For the past 2 years, we've watched our mid-year Dibbles data. Maybe if you could move to the next slide, Superintendent. Oh, one more, sorry. We've watched kids actually move backwards in reading and math. And I don't think that's for any lack of effort on the part of our teachers or our staff. I think that happened because we weren't addressing the problem in the right way. We weren't teaching our students in the way that they needed to be taught in order to make progress. This year, we're seeing students move forward at rates that have never, to my knowledge, been achieved at Midvale Elementary School. Patty mentioned that turnaround schools historically have not served these specific populations. And we're seeing students grow and move forward. On the screen right now is just a summary of mid-year reading data. Looking across the board, every grade level is making progress, which is a huge step in and of itself. And we have kindergarten and first grade that are actually at benchmark in the middle of the year. This was not the case last year. This was not the case the year before. And we're really excited about the gains that our students are making. If you could just move to the next slide, please. This is our math data. The math graph includes yellow bars. The first yellow bar would be our fall math benchmark. The blue bars would indicate or would represent progress monitoring, or kind of a snapshot of progress that we take on a monthly basis of all of our students. And then that second yellow bar is our winter benchmark that was just completed 2 weeks ago. The math data that we're seeing this year it completely blows me away because last year we were dropping. We were going the other way. We had students who were starting out in the green, in the red, or in the yellow, sorry, and moving backwards. So we're excited, again, about what this means for our students and what it means for our community. And I guess if there's a message that I can convey to you from Midvale Elementary School, it's that we're nervous. I mean, I have teachers at school today that are texting me every 30 seconds, what's happening, what's happening, what's going on, did you hear yet? We're nervous because we understand that we haven't made the cut and we haven't exited turnaround status. But we're also incredibly encouraged because we've figured it out. We believe we figured it out, and we know that we can do this. My purpose in coming to visit with you today is just to share that message with you as someone who works in the school. I mean, there are a ton of people supporting our school. And as a third-year principal, I think I figured out how to get them all pointed in the right direction and work together. I figured out how to say no to certain things and to understand what was most important. And we've narrowed our focus and we're keeping the main thing the main thing. It's my hope that this board will accept the recommendation of the review committee and allow us to continue moving forward. There is such momentum at our school. There has been such a change in the culture among parents, students, and teachers. I feel like changing that all now would just take us right back to where we were 3 years ago. And I would hate to see that happen. We are committed to the community of Midvale. Our board is committed to the community of Midvale, and we hope that you will allow us the opportunity to continue to express that commitment by helping to reverse this trend, this historical trend that has existed in our community for so long, and help provide better outcomes for our students. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the agenda, we were going to get your recommendations and then take questions, correct?
Yes. So at this time, we would like to invite Dr. Max. Yeah.
I have to turn this up. Sorry. We'll get to it. We're slow. Oh.
Yes, so at this time, we'd like to invite Dr. Max Lane to come up and present the recommendations of the State Charter School Review Panel. Yeah, you might come back up in a second as they ask questions.
No.
No.
No, we can
Sorry.
get your-
State report, yes, state review.
State review, yes.
Panel recommendation, sorry. Yeah. So Dr. Max Lang and Dr. Leslie Evans. It's end of the day, so today she's a doctor. Can we just, she's a doctor, yeah.
So we need the mic turn, there we go.
Good afternoon. My name is Max Lang. I'm one of this board's employees in the ESCA programs and related state initiatives. This afternoon, specifically in the related state initiatives.
Leslie Evans of the same department here at the board.
So, in accordance with Rule 277-920-8, a state review panel with the required representation as outlined in the rule met on January 15 to review data, review the Canyons board recommendations, and to make recommendations as a state review panel. These words were pretty carefully crafted by the review panel, so if you'll bear with me, I'm going to read them as they're presented, and I believe that this information is in the board docs in your materials for Midvale Elementary. Yes, R277-920, this particular piece is in Section 8. So the State Review Panel recommends that Midvale Elementary School participate in a new comprehensive needs assessment and root cause analysis. The USBE will contract with an external provider to complete this work, and the State Review Panel requests that the board authorize the use of state turnaround funds for this purpose. The panel requests that Midvale Elementary update their current school improvement plan to address the results of that comprehensive needs assessment and root cause analysis, that they align the proposed Midvale restructuring plan with the results of the comprehensive needs assessment and root cause analysis, and they update the restructuring plan to include specific details regarding the timeline of implementations for the actions and strategies proposed in that restructuring plan, details defining the proposed professional development, that as named in the restructuring plan, interventionists and behavior assistants will receive in order to be effective in that role. And they include in the school improvement plan how the district will sustain the increase in personnel at Midvale Elementary School. So those are the recommendations current. So the recommendations as a timeline piece is this last piece. The review panel recommend that Midvale Elementary School, I taught at Midvale Middle School, that's Midvale Elementary School will demonstrate that after 2 years, they meet the school turnaround exit criteria using 2019-2020 school year test data results, applying the 2014-2015 state accountability criteria. In other words, the indicators, measures, and threshold scores that were used to identify the school, and that's pursuant to the rule. Further, after 2 years, the review panel recommend that Midvale Elementary not be identified in the bottom 3% based on the indicators, measures, and threshold scores as defined in the current state accountability system. If it does not meet these exit criteria, the state review panel will recommend to the state board at that time that the school implement more rigorous actions pursuant to the rule in that part.
So at this time, we'd like to turn it back to the board for discussion on the recommendations.
Okay, board members, I'm going to, I guess I have a little conflict of interest, but Canyons is probably thinking, well, what does Chair Huntsman have to do with a conflict of interest? So I'll just share with you, the board members. I participate with my company, Sunrise Engineering. We have a Midvale office, and we are part of the weekend kind of food for the needy there, and I personally donate to it. My employees and office support that program, so I'm going to remove myself from the discussion and ask Vice Chair Cummins to lead any discussion and the motion.
Okay, Board Member Hanson.
I have seen recently, very recently, schools that did not succeed because they did not have enough communication with parents. They didn't have enough community involvement. They didn't get the community involved. They didn't even let the community know that that the school was in turnaround. So I guess that's my question. How are parents involved? And maybe we need those guys to come back. How are parents involved in what the school is doing to turn around? Are parents aware that the school is turning around? And how is the community involved in your efforts? Because I think that's essential. If we don't have that involvement, I don't think it's going to work.
Thank you for your question. We understand that parent involvement is critical in education, and our parents are involved in varying degrees. Most of them to the degree that they're able to be involved. We have communicated on an annual basis. I have communicated personally with our parents about our turnaround status and that designation and what it means. I've done that with meetings that I've invited parents to come to on Friday mornings, just kind of a come in and chat with the principal and have a donut kind of meeting and ask whatever you'd like, express concerns, talk about the school and how things are going. I've done that through newsletters and through the required communication that we send home. As a turnaround school, we're required to notify parents on an annual basis. This year, the focus of every school newsletter that I've sent home has outlined parts of our restructuring plan and what we're doing to improve teaching and learning in our school, how parents can help, and the results that we're seeing. Our teachers have also been able to participate in a home visit program where they have been able to go and visit with families in their homes. The purpose of those visits is to build relationships and it's to build community. They talk about kids in their class, the kids that will be in their class. They talk about hopes and dreams and aspirations and what goals the family has for education. We also host literacy and math nights for parents, where we invite them to come into our school and learn what their students are working on. In some instances, we're teaching parents how to do those skills as well, so that they can reinforce them at home. We've had parents set goals with their students and with their teachers and then follow up on, whether it's multiplication or reading or whatever the target skill is. Our school community council have been active participants in our land trust plan development. I update them on a monthly basis in terms of the data that we collect, the progress that we're seeing or not seeing, and what we think as a school our next step should be. And we also have a small but very involved PTA. We communicate with the community through them. And I think one of the most important things that we've been able to do over the last couple of years is help parents understand how to navigate schools here in Utah. We've been able to change the culture of our front office to one that welcomes parents and, appreciates the contributions that they can make. We have a parent learning center in our school where we teach classes in English and financial literacy and technological literacy. Our enrollment in those classes has grown exponentially over the last couple of years. So how do we involve parents? Any way that we possibly can. We're always open to more suggestions and different ideas. We do have a variety of other community volunteers that come in and serve in our school. Chairman Huntsman mentioned Sunrise Engineering. I spoke to some of his folks that were there today as part of Career Day, and then also passing out the weekend food bags that they help us with. We have a partnership this year with Savage, who are located in Midvale. And we have volunteers from Savage coming in on a weekly basis to implement a program called Great Leaps, a reading fluency program with targeted students. So there are a lot of things that we do. I don't know if we found the perfect combination of them, but we're always looking, especially now, understanding and trying to do all the things that we're implementing this year. We're always looking for ways that we can improve.
Thank you.
Board Member Earl. Thank you. I did take the opportunity to go down and actually meet with Principal Watts for a little bit because I wanted to know firsthand and actually feel the environment there and what was happening and what was taking place. And I asked him some very pointed questions and concerns that I'd have and get the feel for whether or not this was a good direction that they were moving. Just a couple things. I too asked about the volunteerism or what's going on within the school, the culture there. It looks to me like they've narrowed their focus. It's not what everybody has, everybody's suggesting all these things, kind of what they said before, but they've really narrowed in. I think their test results are starting to show that. Can we make recommendations or not? Add recommendations to things?
At this point, we're just
having a
asking
dialogue discussion.
questions.
Okay. So, anyways, I just appreciated his thoughtfulness and honesty on being a new principal in there and the learning curve that took place. And then also I've talked to a couple of the board members as well down that way and the different things that they've been doing. So I feel like they're moving in a good direction. So anyways, I don't know if you want to speak a little bit to the volunteerism, just because I thought that was a key component that they've put into place this year in their community. So, thank you.
Sure. We have a variety of opportunities for community members and parents to come in and volunteer at our school. I mentioned our Family Learning Center. In addition to the classes that participants in the Family Learning Center enroll in, there are built-in volunteer opportunities for those parents to kind of help out with some different programs that we have going on in our school. They visit classrooms. They help distribute fresh fruits and vegetables as part of a grant that we have through the state, and participate in a variety of different other school activities. Our PTA is small, but it's growing, and we appreciate the efforts of those volunteers in helping to provide activities like Reflections and Red Ribbon Week, and some of those opportunities that are so important for kids in elementary school. The community partnerships that we've been able to form this year have been absolutely amazing. And we're also lucky to have a partnership with United Way that has just happened within the last couple of years. The Day of Caring is another example of a great volunteer opportunity where we'll have people from our community come in, and where we've had them read with kids. We had them repaint a map of the United States on the playground. They've helped us touch up with little maintenance things in the building and help with a variety of different projects over the years. We also have a good working relationship with the city of Midvale, with the mayor and the city council. We had 2 city councilmen at Career Day this morning, and I had a chance to visit with both of them. And I think those connections to the community and to the residents of Midvale are important, because it is this whole turnaround effort and really creating systemic and lasting change at our school. It's going to take more than just me and more than just the 38 teachers that I have, and our aides and our secretaries. It takes the whole community to do that. So, in terms of volunteerism, like I see it at other schools, like I might see at my kids' school, it's not the same. It isn't, and I don't think it will be, because it isn't something that a lot of our parents who work 2 and 3 jobs are able to do. But like I said before, in terms of engagement, I mean, I wouldn't say parent engagement at our school is low, because parents care about what happens to their kids. They care about their education. They're asking good questions. They have good ideas, but they might not be engaged in ways that you might typically think in terms of volunteering and things like that.
Thank you. Board Member Scott Nielsen.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Watts, I really hope that you, and I'm sure you do, that you feel grateful for the opportunity that you've been given to be in a school like this, because I feel like it's tremendous. When I was reading over some of these statistics, years ago I pursued a master's degree at BYU in educational administration, but I was a classroom teacher, still am, but it was, once you're in your classroom, you don't really see what's going on outside of your classroom. And when I see here you have almost 800 students, 100% poverty, 73% minority, 1/2 English language learner, 1/2 or 48%, 16 different languages, 34% start the year, don't finish the year at the same school, over 1/3, according to this, over 1/3 homeless, right? McKinney-Vento, whatever it is. 31% chronically absent, and almost 60% of your teachers with 3 years or fewer in experience. I feel like that what you're doing is tremendous with the clientele that you have, and I'm so supportive. I just want to congratulate you, because I don't like to look at this as a failing school. And I'm trying not to get emotional, but I feel like we're dealing with something very special here with the clientele that you have. And each one of these kids are, one of Heavenly Father's children, And I want to thank you, and I believe it was your directors who chose you to do what you're doing, because I can't imagine, hey, we have a school for you. It's really tremendous. And for the Nancy Tingy for being involved, I want you to know that reading these statistics, and I understand them, in my mind, you're not in the 3%, okay? You're top tier with what you're doing in the lives of a lot of these kids who really, most of these kids that are coming to school, my word, they're worried about where their next meal's coming from, not necessarily about how well they're doing in math. And the mere fact that you're able to boost that math and reading trajectory, right, is amazing. It really is absolutely amazing to see that. And so I hope that we as a board understand that, and the wonderful things that are happening given the lack of opportunity or of status of most of the kids that attend this school. So I want to say thank you, and I'm grateful you're in the position that you are. And it makes me smile to look at you and the Canyons board to come and say, hey, this is what we're trying to do. This is the fix we have. How do you fix something, in the situation where you have a third of your kids that are not at school and the other third that start the year and don't finish the year? Right? That's pretty difficult to do, but you guys are doing it, and you're doing a tremendous job. And so I want to congratulate you for that. And I haven't met you officially, but I'm happy to know you, and I'm hoping that we can be more of a sustaining help to not only the board, but to your school, to where we can help provide services to these beautiful kids that are in your school. Anyways, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Board Member Scott Hansen.
Thank you. Principal Watts, I appreciate you being here and appreciate the good work by you and your team. It looks, from the information that I have in front of me, and I wish there was a little more data to show where we started. I can see this year that you've got a good upward trajectory, but I'm imagining that was probably quite a bit lower than what we're seeing here when you started this process. But from what I hear today, it sounds like you've got some good momentum. You've got some things figured out. I'm wondering, in our turnaround plan, we're talking about going back and having a new needs assessment and root cause analysis done with an external provider coming in. At this stage, is it your opinion that that's necessary, or is that a step back? It looks like some of the things you're doing has some traction and you're moving in the right direction.
To be honest with you, I feel like the analysis that we did last year included a lot of people, and at the district level, from UEPC, from the school and the community, and really, I think it included the right people, because these are teachers who are in our classrooms every day. They're district support personnel who are familiar with our school. They're members of our community in a lot of cases. And don't get me wrong, we are more than happy to have whoever come and visit the school whenever you'd like. And if we need to have another root cause analysis done in order to continue the work that we're doing, I would certainly not say no. But I think with the momentum that we're seeing this year, and increases in student achievement, and just the changes in culture at our school, I don't personally feel like that's necessary at this point, but if the board feels like it's necessary, we would be happy to cooperate and help facilitate that however we can.
I appreciate your comments. And just a quick follow-up. I noticed there are some funding type requests here, and there's some money, I think, that would go into an external provider. Is there anything else that would be needed to continue the trajectory that you're headed on as far as funding? And I'm not talking about pie in the sky. I'm talking about immediate.
I know. Well, last October, when Dr. Briscoe came over to my office, he said, "Look, come up with a new plan. I don't care if it costs $500,000. We'll take it to the board and we'll get it approved, because we need to fix our school." And so we came up with a plan that didn't cost quite $500,000, and then we edited that a little bit. But I'm just extremely grateful for our school board and their support of our restructuring plan and their willingness to be able to commit additional resources to our school. And I was in board meeting last February coming to them saying, hey, look, I'm the principal of Midvale. We've gone from a D to an F. What we're doing isn't working, but I've got this great plan and it's going to cost a couple $100,000. Can we have that? And, they said yes, because they were aware of the level of commitment that went into the plan, and they're aware of, the resources that we've asked for are things that we needed to have. And I know that the district's committed to sustaining that funding. So, to be honest with you, I think what we need right now is more time. And we need to be able to continue to move forward with that narrowed focus that Council Member Earl mentioned, and just keep going with our plan.
Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Cannon?
I would like to ask a question, make a comment, and then make a motion.
Okay.
Okay. So just a question. I didn't quite. Pardon me?
Sorry, what? Sorry, board members have the opportunity to make a motion. We can't make, sorry if I misunderstood your question, we can't make individual recommendations to them. If I misunderstood you, I apologize. We can't make individual recommendations to the group, but you can make a motion as a board member. Sorry, did I misunderstand you? Okay, sorry. Okay, so carry on.
So, my question is, I just didn't understand. I know that under turnaround, the first time you've had an external company that's come in to provide you assistance. At this point in time, will you be changing that external provider and getting some new assistance?
I think that's a great question. And we contracted with UEPC to support us as a focus school shortly before we were designated as a turnaround school. UEPC is the Utah Education Policy Center out of the University of Utah. When the turnaround designation happened and we were, kind of given the requirements of the law, and we found out about the turnaround consultants and all those things, we had already completed our root cause analysis, that comprehensive needs analysis with UEPC. We'd created a plan, identified some needs and created a plan, and we were kind of moving forward with that. So at the time, we decided that it would probably be best to try to keep moving forward with UEPC supporting us in that role. It's been a couple of years, and your question about will we be changing who our turnaround provider is a good question. I think the relationship that we've built with UEPC has allowed us to be more reflective about the turnaround process at our school and really helped us to own it ourselves. I've appreciated UEPC in that they've come in and helped us understand what's going on at our school and try to figure out a solution with us instead of providing one for us. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. That's taken some time because arriving at that solution, it wasn't easy. We're looking at a complex problem and a complex solution. At this point, I would prefer to continue that relationship with UEPC based on the progress that we've been able to make and kind of some of the customized supports that they're providing to Midvale Elementary School. One of the things that I identified that was lacking for me personally as a principal in this, it's not my plan, but our restructuring plan, was the need for some additional leadership coaching opportunities. I've been able to attend and participate in the LIFT leadership conferences for turnaround principals, but I felt like some on-site, on-the-job coaching opportunities would be very helpful for me in continuing to develop my leadership skills. UEPC has been able to provide that coaching this year. I meet monthly. Actually, we've changed it, so we meet twice a month now with Lisa Wisham, who works with UEPC. And that gives us an opportunity to talk about site-based problems that are occurring every couple of weeks. And she has really pushed me to be a better leader and to up my game. It was when, in the fall of 2017, when we received our F grade, we went down from a D to an F. It was Janice Bradley who from UEPC who, when I was having that conversation with her, told me it's implementation, Chip. Your problem is implementation, and you need to be doing this, this, and this. So we've had this relationship from the beginning. It's gotten off to a slow start in terms of improvement, but it's a solid relationship. And I think we're in a position to be able to move forward together now at a much greater rate than we have previously.
Thank you. Then I'd like to, my comment would be that I visited this school some years ago, and even then, I went in and I was struck by what a community feeling there was, and by how many business partners there were supporting this school. And so I felt like I knew a little bit about you when Midville Elementary came up. But I have heard from a former legislator who loves this school and is asking us to please keep it open and please keep it going. And I heard from one of your parents. Can I just read a little brief thing here? It says, I have to tell you, I have been so pleased with Midville Elementary. The principal, the teachers, the office staff, everyone I've run into has been so caring and supporting of the students and their families. Their principal, Mr. Watts, can often be seen walking the grounds, giving high fives to students and talking to parents. The building itself is beautiful and creates such a nice, peaceful atmosphere for the students. And it just goes on to talk about what a remarkable school climate is there. So I think you have a lot of positives going for you. You have a lot of people pulling for you. So that brings me to the motion. I move that we approve the recommendations of the State Review Panel regarding the disposition of Midville Elementary.
Second.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded that we approve the recommendation from the review panel regarding Midville Elementary. Is there any discussion to that motion? So I have lights on in order. Is everybody wanting to speak to this? Okay, Board Member Ellis.
I will turn my light back on for my previous comments, but this one is to the motion. I would like to amend the motion. So the recommendation number 1, participate in a new comprehensive needs assessment, root cause analysis. I would like to suggest that we wait another year before we do another needs and comprehensive assessment so that they can continue on the trajectory that they already are on, and we can see some more gains, or possibly there could be some failures. But before we go in, and if I can speak to the motion, if you want me to wait a second, I can.
Okay, so we have a motion for an amendment, which is to alter the first recommendation, which currently requires a new needs assessment to take place now, and to postpone that for a year. Yes. Did I state that correctly?
Yes.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion to the amendment?
Can I speak to that?
Yes, you may.
The reason why I say that is, and I guess I can just couple this in with what I was going to say. Scott Nielsen gave the emotional plea that I was feeling, but the principal recognized, obviously he's had some help, but when everyone's telling you different things, it's really hard to narrow in and focus in on anything. And by giving them an extra year, they found something that they're finally seeing gains. And the concern I have with performing a needs assessment right now, again, is that could deter the progress that's currently being made, because there's always going to be something found, and then you have to refocus, and it will halt what we're seeing. And so that's my recommendation.
Okay, is there any discussion I'm going to just have you all stay in queue because I know you're all there. So if you have a discussion to the amendment, if you could just raise your hand and I can recognize you. Board Member Scott Hansen.
The needs assessment, second one, would that be mandatory after a year?
Can you speak a
I'm
little
sorry.
bit clearer? Okay.
Sorry, I didn't know you could still give me the mic.
Yeah.
Would that be mandatory after the year? Would that be based on the criteria? So we just evaluate the need to repeat that needs assessment after a year based on data? Is that what we want to do?
Okay, can you restate it, please? Okay, Board Member Ellis.
Sorry, I had turned my mic off. So I just want to rearrange my amendment to look at the needs assessment again after a year. The need for a needs assessment after a
Need for
year.
a needs assessment, okay. Okay, so the amendment is to relook at the need for a needs assessment after 1 year. Is there any further discussion to that amendment? If you could please raise your hand. No. Okay, I have one question regarding it. So the recommendation from the committee is that it's a 2-year time period. If we postpone the needs assessment for a year, that puts them into kind of that last minute place that I don't think we want to put anybody into. And so either the needs assessment is necessary or it's not, I'm thinking. And so, because if they do it next year, what good will the needs assessment do if they only have a few months to actually act upon that needs assessment after that point? So that's my question is, okay, Board Member Ellis.
I'd like to hear from the school or district board, whoever wants to speak to it. Right, they said they didn't want one, but on the delaying of a year. But also, while we're waiting for them to come up, would it be possible to extend it to 3 years if it were found that they did need another needs assessment? Could we then give them? That's why I'm asking if it's even a possibility.
Okay, go ahead and push the button on the microphone in
Well, I
front
don't
of you.
like the turnaround law.
Oh,
so.
there it is.
Me?
Okay, gotcha. Thank you. Yes.
Jim Briscoe, superintendent, and Chip was accurate about our conversation. I came 5 years ago, and when we saw what was happening in Midville, I sat down with some of my key administrators, and his name came to the top, and we sent him over there within the first year I was here. So the second year he started, and he did have, I don't know who said it, but he had everyone in his ears, and you could tell when he was talking to you. It's difficult when you got district office administrators, outside consultants, everyone's telling you, and you're trying to do the best you can. So I walked in, like he said, about a year ago, and I said, forget about everybody. You meet with your staff. The only way you're going to see change in the school, right, is if the teachers buy in. So I'm giving you permission to come up with any creative thing you can come up with. He didn't touch on half the things he's doing that's having a direct impact on the quality instruction in the room. We sent a whole team of staff, monthly, to come into individual classrooms to provide assessments on their instruction. We have 45 schools in our district. Our school board and me and Chip and everyone else were absolutely committed to turning that school around. That's our school. And so to answer your question, you can do the needs assessment now. I'm going to tell Chip as superintendent to continue down the path he's in. We'll take any recommendations. You can spend all the money you want. We'll use that help. We will never turn away that help, and we'll listen to you and incorporate it. My recommendation would be to give him to either do it with the needs assessment, give him the 2 years to turn around, come back. But I can tell you it won't matter, because if we don't see the changes as a school board and the superintendent, if we don't see the kind of improvement we need on the new RISE, if it's comparable to the SAGE, we'll make our own changes. We're not going to just let things continue. So the problem in public education is we put things in place and we let them stay. That's what he sort of experienced. We gave him a door to open. We told him to get creative with his staff. They did it, and they're seeing progress because of the energy that brought into the building. So Chip and I will sit down with our school board and other key staff members, Karen Sterling over there, and we'll figure out another plan, but we're not going to stay stagnant. If it doesn't work, we're going to make changes. We're going to add more resources. We're going to do whatever we can to help the kids at Midvale Elementary. So I believe we're going to see the growth. If that data is even close to the indicators that it's showing right now compared to previous years, we're going to be in good shape. But if we're not, then we need to go back and we need to figure out something else. So my point would be, do the assessment, we'll use it. We'd love you to spend money on our system and give us an analysis of what you think. We'll incorporate it into what we're doing, or let us continue down the path and our school board will continue to set expectations. And I'll be, at the end of the day, I'm accountable, not Chip. So I approved and agreed and brought his recommendations to our school board. So if there's any changes that need to be happening, it needs to happen at the top. But we will do everything we can to help out Midvale Middle, because those kids are just as important as any other kid in our school district.
Okay, so
Now I don't know what to do.
And so we can vote down the amendment, or
Right,
we
so
can
if-
remove it if no one, right?
Can I just ask a question, though? So if we struck that needs assessment, I mean, he's saying it's okay if we have it, but does that take away some funding?
Or can we give them the money?
Or can they still have the funding without the assessment?
So, yeah, so we can have somebody speak to the turnaround funding and what it can be used for, so.
I'm just wondering if it's contingent upon the needs assessment for them to be able to get more funding.
So I will answer this in the best of my interpretation from our discussions. This beyond just the state review panel. And if I'm incorrect and you see somebody rushing towards the table, then I need to be corrected. In our initial conversations, once schools were identified as either exiting Cohort 1 of turnaround, qualifying and applying for an extension, or not exiting, we, in our conversations and plans, loosely set aside some money to implement the decided actions of this board. The piece that you see in your notes there that has I think there's a number attached to it, took into consideration the cost of a comprehensive needs assessment root cause analysis that would be paid for us. So I don't think there's anything restrictive in the rule in regards to this that would limit this board allocating some necessary funds, but it's not required. Everybody's still sitting down, so.
I guess we can just vote on it. I'm a little bit undecided on the best course now on what to do.
So the amendment that we have before us is to assess after a year the necessity of a needs assessment. So, sorry.
Was it seconded?
It
Yeah.
was.
Well, but we could withdraw without
Yes.
without objection.
So,
Do you want to withdraw?
Yeah, I can withdraw it, but I would like to possibly strike number 1 altogether. But,
so that would be a separate motion that could be
right,
made.
but I'll withdraw that one and I'll think
Okay,
about
is
the
there
other
any
one.
objections to withdraw of that motion? Okay, seeing no objections, that we're back to our main motion, which is to accept the recommendations from the committee. Is there any further discussion to that motion? We have Sean Newell, you're up next.
Well, most everything's been said already, especially on the positive side. I just wanted to add that I took the time to visit with Mr. Watts there at campus, there at Midvale Elementary School, and learned an awful lot. In business, sometimes we have these strategic plans that go out 3 to 5 years, and to me it was remarkable how fast they started to see some turnaround based on their strategic plan. He showed me, he was very transparent about the data prior to this data that we received today, and it's phenomenal, the turnaround that you've been able to implement there on campus. One of the biggest things that I took away from there when I left was not only the external culture, but the internal culture that had to create that external culture for that school and the students and the families and the impact that it has on that community. And talking to people I know in that area, It's incredible. So I just wanted to say kudos to you, to the Canyons District, all the leadership, and all of the efforts that you're putting forth. And I just commend you, and I hope the best for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Cindy Davis.
Thank you. I guess I have a question. Is there, and this isn't necessarily to the motion, but I'm wondering, I know we have some money set aside to do the assessment, and then is there money set aside also to work with UEPC as you continue this process from the state level?
So can I interject really quick?
Yes.
I think we need to speak to the motion. If we have questions as to whether or not we can use turnaround funding for something other than, we need to discuss that outside of the motion, or we need to.
It would impact because amending the motion, or actually to striking and using that money rather for them to work on their plan.
So maybe what we could do is,
On
are
their
we
current plan.
asking if we have the ability to direct turnaround funding to the school for other purposes other than the needs assessment?
Or the private consultant, I am asking
Or
that
the
question.
private consultant. Okay, so I think that's a question that we need to ask staff to answer, and then we can move on from there, so.
Vice Chair, do you mind if I just make a clarification that might help? So in the board rule, the money that's, I'm sorry, your Deputy Superintendent of Policy, Angie Stallings. A local school board can only use funding after a needs assessment for those interventions that are identified in the plan. So if you don't have an updated plan, they may not have up-to-date interventions available, so.
And how much money are we talking about?
That would be probably a max question, but if if the needs assessment were to identify different interventions than their original needs assessment, and they wanted to use that money for something more up to date, that would be the benefit of doing a new needs assessment, a root cause analysis.
And how much money are we talking about?
I don't know.
For both the interventions and the assessment?
And just as a point of clarification, Utah Education Policy Center was not in the Cohort 1 USBE approved list of turnaround expert providers. This was a Canyons District decision to waive that opportunity to utilize one of those expert providers. So they're outside of that, I guess, that parentheses. When we have met as a team and we were planning forward for the actions of this board, we had originally asked for $50,000 for each school that did not exit to implement the actions, decisions of this board. You'll see that there's the number attached in I think your notes. It says $120,000, but that would be pursuant to the recommendations of conducting a new comprehensive needs assessment and root cause analysis. So, there are a couple of schools that did not exit, so that $120,000 would capture both schools.
So just as a follow-up, that $120,000 cannot in code be used for interventions unless we use the $50,000 for the needs assessment.
Just 1 second, sorry.
So if you look in R277920, in subsection 4, actually the limitation is on the superintendent distributing the funds first. So it states the superintendent, so that would be Max and Superintendent Dixon, shall distribute any funds available for distribution after the allocation of funds above, which are kind of the regular funds you get at the beginning of the turnaround process. And it says to local school boards on a prioritized basis taking need for the funds as demonstrated by the needs assessment conducted in accordance with code. And then later it states the local board shall use the funding distributed under this section to contract with an independent school turnaround expert first, including costs for travel. And then they shall use funding available after that only for interventions identified in a school turnaround plan.
Can I ask one short follow-up, really short?
Yes.
So could the first needs assessment that they've already done fulfill the requirement in code?
Yeah.
Then let's let them move on.
So make the amendment.
I'm new. Someone that knows what they're doing should do. Can I make a motion?
Yes, you. Amendment.
I move to make an amendment to the motion that we support. Do we need to support this first?
No, it's already supported.
That we strike item 1 in the recommendations, and 2, and use the initial needs assessment as the requirement for code, so that they can continue working on their current plan.
Can I clarify?
Please.
Would you say the most recent needs assessment? Because I believe there was an initial one and then you did another one. Is that correct?
Whatever you're working on.
Sorry, I can't find. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, I guess the most recent one.
Okay. Just want to clarify.
And then the rest of the money would be decided later, right? With the other funds that are available for these schools, that's a different discussion, is that correct?
So the funding that would be available would be dependent on rule and how that can flow through based on the turnaround rule. So if the initial needs assessment or the second needs assessment that was done, the most recent needs assessment is the one that we would like to use as the plan that they're moving forward with, then those interventions that are identified in that plan, the funding potentially could be used for those interventions. If I'm understanding the rule correctly, are we all?
So I'm asking
in the
if
same-
that conversation is now, or would that conversation be at another meeting?
So if we're going to make the motion to remove those two things from the recommendation, then we would need to understand that now, at least to a general understanding that we would need to know if that's possible. So if there's a nod of heads that that is an option, then, okay, so the nod is that that is a viable option. Okay. So the motion is appropriate, and so the amendment, is there a second to that amendment?
Second.
Okay, so the the motion to amend is that we strike the first two recommendations from the committee recommendation. Is there any discussion to that motion? Okay, I'm going to leave everyone kind of in the queue, so if you want to raise your hand and I'll call you. So, Board Member Carol Lear. And
My hesitation, I think that sounds like a good idea. My hesitation is a panel of experts, people I respect. I asked Dr. Dixon who the review panel was, and I respect those people. They recommended an updated or renewed assessment. I'm wondering if we could get 30 seconds of why, because they could have made the same recommendation. And I'm wondering why they, I'm sorry?
I wasn't talking to you, Carol.
Oh. Oh. I'm just wondering why they made that recommendation. Why the review panel did. Max?
Simply because the last needs assessment that we were aware of and reviewed was conducted when the school was identified. So this is 2019, so it would be updated needs assessment. Since 2016 until now, or since when the school was identified until now, the state has gone through an extensive process to update the processes and procedures and tools to conduct a comprehensive needs assessment and subsequent root cause analysis. So it would bring that process up to the current rigor based on the state accountability system.
Short follow-up.
Yes.
Did you consider not requiring another needs assessment, or was that just a sort of your initial response, they need something else?
It was just to bring, or it would just as to provide a resource to the school to be current in regards to the updated state accountability system and the updated requirements that any school identified for school turnaround moving forward would have to go through.
And one more short question. Would you think that these amendments would be equally satisfactory if they didn't have that?
It would be my personal opinion, and I haven't been given that opinion yet.
I'm asking for your personal opinion.
My personal opinion, the current version of the tools and the processes and procedures of the comprehensive needs assessment and root cause analysis would provide very detailed and specific information as to why areas identified for low performance are the areas of low performance. It would be pretty valuable information. Now, beyond that, as posed by the state review panel in the recommendations, that the results of that root cause analysis be, I guess, reflected in their restructuring plan. Now, that would that would shake things up if there's something drastically identified that is not being addressed in the restructuring plan.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we're going to go to
Thank you.
Stallings has a title, and I don't know what
Yeah,
it is.
it's okay.
Sorry, Angie was going to speak to that in your next. Board Member Earl, excuse me.
Thank you, board members. So a team of us, you probably saw us walk out in the hall just a moment ago. Because some of the details of this particular school, the background behind the school, and the fact that you're now possibly going to take action that's not one of the recommended actions, we are not prepared to state whether whatever you do other than what was recommended would be legal because of some particular factors. We're kind of in new uncharted territory, and so if you saw that we're not quite nodding, that is why. So if you wanted to table and hold for another month for action so we could do the research, we could.
Okay, so board members, just one second, Board Member Earl.
Yeah, we could probably do
So
next
based on that information, we have an amendment before us that we can move for. We might not want to move forward with based on the possible legal implications. Okay, so we have two options. We can either move forward with the recommendations from the committee, or we can go with an alternate motion that would basically allow us the time to do this. I don't know that we're going to want to add this to a legislative meeting. We only have an hour and a half to those, and so we're not going to be able to address this conversation during those weekly meetings. We could go with our original motion, and then an amendment could come forward to that recommendation through an agenda item at a later time if there's board members that want to move that forward. So those are our options that we have before us. No. Okay, so Board Member Earl wants to speak to this. Oh, sorry.
You did. Do you have something you want to add? Sorry.
I was just going to say, if it means that I can go back and tell everybody at my school what's going to happen, let's go ahead and do the comprehensive needs assessment. That's fine.
Yeah, okay. So Board Member Earl, did you have something that you want? Sorry, just one second. Board Member Earl, just one second. Sorry, I have to find your name. Sorry.
So I would propose, well, and that, I guess I don't know how to add that to it now if we're waiting, but that they just, okay, maybe I better wait till next month because it really is relevant. I want some feedback in the fall. I don't need a whole big presentation, but I just want feedback on how it's going, that kind of a thing as a board. So, but I would add that to the motion, but it sounds like we're going to.
Okay, that would be a request. So we have on the table an amendment, and we need to decide what we're going to do with that amendment. Are we going to pull it, or as? Okay, Board Member Hanson.
I would move that we pull the amendment and call the question on the original motion.
Okay, so I know. So we can't. Okay. So exactly. So we have an amendment on the table. Is there any objection to pulling the amendment? Is there anybody who would like to speak to pulling the amendment? Okay, so the amendment is pulled and we are back to our original motion, which, okay, did you have something you wanted on the pulling of that amendment? Okay, let me turn your mic on, please.
Okay, from what I'm understanding, we can move forward with that amendment and pull it and amend it in a week if our staff finds that that's not.
No. We do not have a legal understanding of the motion that was made. We do not know if we have the legal ability to move forward with that. So we're asking for the motion to be pulled, move forward with the original motion, and if there's board members who would like to amend the recommendation moving forward, that can be brought forward as an agenda item.
Okay, I pull it then.
Okay. Thank you for your patience. Okay. So the motion before us is to approve the committee recommendation as stated earlier. Is there any further discussion to that motion, Board Member Belknap?
Thank you. I'm the naysayer because I'm really struggling with this because I've been here to vote for this motion since the beginning of turnaround. I realized Cohort 1 had a lot of issues and money was oddly distributed and so on and so forth, but I'm still surprised that this trajectory didn't start earlier and that the board didn't jump on this earlier. The other piece is I'm shocked that you have 58% of your teachers under 3 years and that you didn't pull in some of your highly qualified teachers. But I will call to question.
Okay. Sorry, Board Member Hanson. Prior, you had two things, and we had to address one first, so apologize for that. So the question is called. All in favor for calling the question? Say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion, there's one nay. Okay. The motion before the board is to approve the committee recommendation regarding Midvale Elementary School. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. Nay. Okay. Okay, so that motion passes. So one opposed. Okay. Okay, and then we just want Superintendent Dixon.
So I just wanted a point of privilege for a second. I did not weigh in on the panel. I didn't have any decision-making authority, but I just have to publicly state that I'm really proud of my former student, Chip Watts. I was his school counselor. Yeah. And if you would have said to me at that time, Chip was very smart as a high school student, and he was interested in athletic and girls and a few other things at that time. And Chip, had you told me that you would be sitting here before us and hearing all these wonderful things that you're doing, I wouldn't have been surprised based on your leadership as a high school student, but I'm really proud of you. And I retweeted something that I think Chip epitomizes. This is from an educator in another state, but he said, if you teach with the intention of changing your students' lives, you may have lost sight of the purpose of education. Our goal is not to change lives, it is to support students as they try to effectively navigate their own lives they have been given to reach their full potential. So thank you, Principal Watts and Canyon School District, for realizing that it's not savior mentality of changing lives, but it's helping students reach the full potential of the lives that they've been given. Thank you.
Thank you. And I was serious. Anytime you guys want to come visit, anytime any of you would like to come visit Midvale Elementary and see what we're doing, you're more than welcome to come and visit. And I am always happy to come back and talk to you about how things are going anytime you'd like me to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle Bolter, do you have a comment in regards to this?
I just wanted to just quickly say I would like for staff, or at least for them to look into the money, but it is frustrating to me that we have a school that has found something that works, and now we have to spend $50,000 on a needs assessment. It seems like a waste of money, and that could possibly set them back. And I understand that we're trying to understand the law, but I just wanted to point out that frustration.
Duly noted.
Okay, Board Member Davis.
And just quickly, the bigger question for me is, does board rule or code commit them to have to follow new rules based on. They only get the money. Because in here it says it does. So.
Okay. So board members, if you don't mind, we have another school to
Okay, thank you.
consider. And so if we could, we will be able to have this conversation. So we have Patty Norman,
Yeah.
who's going to introduce our next group. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we'd like to bring forward the Utah State Charter School Board Executive Director Jennifer Lambert to speak to the recommendations for Entheos, and she has brought some of the Entheos leadership as well.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Board Member Lear, if you'd like to take a moment real quick.
My law firm has represented Entheos at various times, and so I won't be voting, won't be participating in the discussion, but would like to observe like Chair Huntsman did. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Go for it.
Good afternoon. As was said, I'm Jennifer Lambert, Executive Director of the State Charter School Board. I will try to be very short and sweet. I know your time is valuable. I want to let you know first, the State Charter School Board put a lot of thought into this recommendation. We did visits to the school to see the atmosphere there. There was many discussions with administration, board members, staff, teachers. We sent a survey to all of the teachers. We sent another survey to the parents, and we also held a parent meeting. And from that, we found many things, but two maybe the most salient is one, that this school is very much wanted by the community. The parents want to have this school there, an expeditionary learning school in their community. And the other is that the administration, the school has been making changes. In fact, they made quite a few changes over the summer. However, they were too late to be counted into the last year's accountability. So with that, our recommendation is actually, the intent of our recommendation is very similar to what the state panel's recommendation is. We recommend that the school be given 2 more years to be able to show the progress that all their efforts are going to yield. Separate from that recommendation, but for your information, we also place the school on warning. That is part of our oversight as their authorizer. And along with warning, we have a number of terms. And I want to pull out a couple of the terms that I think are very relevant. So in the statute, in the board rule, it lists a number of actions that should be taken if a school fails to exit turnaround. A lot of times we focus on the two extremes, the termination or closing a school, or that it's some other option. But there's other things that are listed there. One of the things that is listed is to make changes on their board, their governing board. In one of our warning terms, and in addressing that, Entheos Academy is rotating out some of their board members. So they are making changes to their board. Another thing that we did require, or one of our warning terms, is that they do a needs assessment. Given the review panel's recommendation, we actually have placed that on hold to pending what your action will be here. But as I said, we support the recommendations of the review panel. They're very similar to our own. And the school is here also if you, I guess, have any questions.
Would you like to introduce them?
I'll let them introduce themselves.
Eric Robbins, I'm the executive director of both schools.
Hang on, I'm trying to get this mouse to work. Here we go. I think we're good.
Brian Storrs, I'm the director of Entheos Magna.
And Jaron Gibson, the board chair.
And if I may, just to point out, there is Entheos Academy Magna. There's also Entheos Academy Kearns. And so that is the both schools. But it is only the Magna campus that was in turnaround.
So at this time, we're going to invite Dr. Max Lang back up to do the state review panel recommendations, and then we'll have a discussion. And Leslie Evans, former doctor.
Leslie Evans.
Good grief.
Leslie Evans, federal and state turnaround at the Board of Education. I'm giving Max a break here. So the review panel, there are 2 points of clarification before we start on the recommendations. That the state review panel is not recommending school closure at this time. There was lots of calls about that and things. Because the LEA did not qualify for an extension under the provisions of the Rule 277-920-8, the USBE contract with the turnaround expert that provided services to Entheos Magna was terminated on October 1st, 2018, and the vendor will not receive the last 50% of their contract. The State Review Panel recommends that Entheos Academy Charter Magna will participate in a new comprehensive needs assessment and root cause analysis. The USBE will contract with an external provider to complete this work, and the panel requests that the board authorize the use of state school turnaround funds for this purpose. Number 2, Entheos Academy Charter Magna will update the current school improvement plan to address the results of that CNA RCA. And number 3, Entheos Academy Charter Magna will update the current school improvement plan to address the charter authoriser's corrective action plan. The state review panel will meet with the charter authorizer after Entheos Magna has updated their school improvement plan to review that and ensure all required elements from the CNA, RCA, and charter authorizer corrective plan are addressed. When we refer to the charter authorizer, it's clear that it's the State Charter School Board, Jennifer Lambert. The Entheos will also demonstrate that after 2 years, they meet the school turnaround exit criteria using the 2019-2020 school year test data results, but applying those 2014-2015 accountability criteria that were used to identify the school for school turnaround. After 2 years, Entheos Magna they will not be identified in the bottom 3% based on those indicators, measures, and threshold scores as defined in the current state accountability system. If the school does not meet these exit criteria, the state review panel will recommend to the state board that the school close. That's it.
Okay, those are your recommendations.
Those are the review panel's recommendations, yes.
Okay, review panel recommendations. Discussion from the board, or questions or comments. Board Member Belknap.
Thank you, Chair. I actually don't feel any different than I did before, that they've had 3 years. Yeah, it seems to me that we're building the dam now that the water's starting to spill over on both of these schools. But on this one particularly, I'm curious as to what they're doing different in Kearns than they're not doing in Magna. And if you're not, why aren't you copying it? Because Kearns isn't in turnaround. And what are you going to do different in the next 2 years than you've done in the last 3?
Okay.
We are not doing a lot different. It's under the same board. I'm the executive director. I was at Kearns as the principal, and so one of the reasons they moved me into the executive director position was to create some unity and make sure that we're doing the same thing. So very similar academically, very similar curriculum. It goes. We actually moved when we started Magna. We moved 9 teachers from the Kearns campus to the Magna campus, and none of them are there now. And so it's just been a little bit slower of a process than it was at Kearns. And what we do different, it makes it sound like we haven't done anything to this point. That is not the case. We are, just as Principal Watts said, we are constantly looking. We're taking suggestions. We're looking at ideas. We're talking to people. We're looking at experts. Our education direction was our provider, our contractor, and they had great success with a lot of their schools, and they've told us the same thing. We did the same things with you. We just feel like it's maybe a little bit slower process where we're at, but we are committed to continue to work through it and continue to make changes. We have implemented some things this summer. To create some more structure. We in the hopes or in the intent that we were going to get out of the program, but it puts things in place to better support. The previous director, Mr. Edvik, we moved him into a position where he is the director of teacher improvement, so he can be in the classroom a little bit more after he went through all the lift trainings through the turnaround program, worked with education direction closely. We wanted him to have a little bit more access to the teachers rather than do all the administrative stuff that principals sometimes get stuck doing. So we moved him, so his position now is to be in the classroom with teachers on a more regular basis. We've implemented the iReady program. We are looking at a new math curriculum that was just approved by the board this last month. So we're constantly assessing and moving, but we feel like we are working hard, but we definitely recognize that we need to continue to move these kids forward. So.
Okay, did you have a follow-up? Did that answer your questions?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Board Member Linda Hansen.
Wow, I don't even know what to say about this. I have been to Entheos Magna. This school is in my district. I've been there. Parents have talked to me about them for quite a while. I know they're important to the community. Quite frankly, I haven't seen any improvements in the time that I've been there. So I need you to tell me what you're going to do to improve, I guess. And I'd like to know if you've been working with Ed Direction, have you been following their recommendations? Because we have other charters over there that have been in turnaround in the same general area, that have come out of turnaround, that have had Ed Direction, who've done fantastic. And so my question is, have you been following their recommendations? And
100%. We feel like that they've been a great partner for us. We have worked closely with them. The 90-day plans that they've created have been great. And our teachers have improved, and the scores have improved. They just haven't improved in SAGE. Our reading scores have gone up tremendously from when we started. We continue to work on our ELL program to get the support that the students need, our language learners. That was one thing that was different from our Magna campus to our Kearns campus, is that there was more language learners. And we've been actively working on better supporting them. That is a population that needs more support, and that's something that we've done the last couple of years, and we feel like we're on track to help them as well. So,
follow up.
Yes, please.
So I don't want to see you guys close, but I was really hoping you'd bring us some kind of a plan. This is our plan. This is what we're going to work on, and I'm not hearing that. And so I'm hearing we're still looking for ideas, kind of thing, and so I'm a little concerned.
No, and the kind of the hard position we're in, we've been working closely with the charter board, and so we did not bring a plan here, and we didn't know we were supposed to, so we apologize for that, because we definitely have a plan. We definitely are moving forward. We're willing to take ideas, but we're not actively saying, hey, we don't have any ideas. We set up the administration to work the way it is. Like I said, our math curriculum, our math scores are low, and we've went out, we put a team of teachers that spent a full year in going through 31 different companies to look at what curriculum would best fit for the testing in the state of Utah, and they did a remarkable job of that. So that will be implemented starting now. We implemented the iReady program, so we had better assessments for students, and that's this year. We've implemented that, and we're seeing tremendous results from that. We're able to better get assessments and use them real time. So we have a whole bunch of things that we're doing, and we're seeing improvement. And so we really are.
Sure.
Board Member Ellis.
Thank you. I wish there was a way for the presentation you gave to the board, the packet that was given to the charter board, to be given to this board. Because I don't know if there's a way that you could send it or anything. Did you have a digital copy of that?
Not with me at the moment.
Okay.
That packet was put together by staff, and I do want to just, from an outsider's perspective, I mean, we're not completely outsiders because they're authorizer, but we did talk to parents. We surveyed parents, and there were some things that we found and we have passed along to the school in terms of that they can communicate better with parents, and I believe that they're working on that and they're improving on that. We also I didn't mention all of the things that we are requiring in their terms of warning, but we are giving additional support. We've gotten a mentor for them that they are an expeditionary learning school. And so we have a mentor that has expertise in expeditionary learning that can add to all of the help and the resources that Education Direction has provided them, and can now look at the expeditionary learning and help them with that as well. We are also looking, they have to, at every board meeting, they have to have an academic report and discuss that academic report. And then we also receive that academic report and can give feedback. We already have 2 of them, I believe, that we've received. I can go on. I mean, we have kind of some checkpoints. And so there are requirements. We just because probably we're not a district office, and so we didn't come here with a plan that we can just present to you. It was our intent that we were going to work with the school, do a needs assessment, and come up with a new, plan and do that. However, knowing that the review panel is recommending having a needs assessment, we didn't want to duplicate that work. And it has already been discussed. If you have too many people saying too many different things, it can actually hinder progress. And so we did not want to do that. We put kind of the brakes on that and are looking forward to, regardless of what your recommendation is, the school is going to have a needs assessment, whether if we're leading it or if you're paying for an external provider to have it, that will happen.
Thank you for that. I just wanted to speak to, in support of the state review panel recommendations. I am the liaison with the state charter board, and I sat in the meeting. I was very impressed with the steps that you had made, and I wish that every board member could have gone back before this meeting and listened to that, and I wish that you would have been able to present like the last school did. No one's perfect, and there's still room for improvement, but I was impressed when I sat into the presentation and the questions that the charter board asked. And so I support these recommendations by the state review panel and recommend that you continue to move forward and listen to the advice that you're given.
Okay. Board Member Lisa Cummins.
Thank you, Chair. I finally get to speak after the last one. One thing I don't like, ever since turnaround was implemented in Utah, it was already failing on a national level. And I was not happy when it was implemented finally here in Utah as one of the last states to do so. What I have found with turnaround is that it takes the most vulnerable school environment and makes them out to be the worst of citizenry, which is not economic viable, not contributors to society, which I think is an absolute lie, if I can say so. And really the morale of the community and the school and the teachers and the administration and especially the students is greatly affected, and we wonder why we have mental health problems in our lowest schools. What has been highlighted, I don't know anything what specifics. I know that the last school and many schools are starting to implement phonics, because phonics has been a huge factor in not having students reading proficiently. Have you implemented phonics?
Yeah, so we do the Dibbles testing, but we also do our own, which is Fonda Spinell, and we've really started looking at that reading and writing at that basic level. That's one of our big focuses for the part of the turnaround program is, how do we get these kids reading at a level that they can first of all understand what's happening in school, and second of all then take the test to show that they have learned it. So that is one area that we've spent a lot of time looking at, and that's why our reading scores have been going up. So.
And thank you for that. And what about math? Have you taught teachers how to teach math differently? I know that personally I'm not a fan of the Utah Core Math Standards, but has that hindered teaching? Is traditional math better? Is that being looked at? Teaching methodology? I mean, what have you looked at?
Of course, yeah. We've brought in outside experts. We've had a training group out of Idaho State came and spent 2 days over the Thanksgiving break with our teachers a couple years ago. We've constantly Ed Direction. That was one of the things that they looked at. We have curriculum people coming in from our vendor that we purchased from, and that's one of the reasons it kind of is that assessment. We were spending a lot of time moving that forward, but we weren't seeing the results that we wanted, and that's what's kind of spurred us as a district at level, the LEA level, to say, okay, well, maybe we need to look at our math curriculum and see if we can increase that and improve that. And I feel like that the board made a decision this last month that will help that as well. So.
Well, hopefully that continues, but I see that the integrated standards has really set up schools to fail as part of that. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but that's been what
it takes more time.
It does take more time and more understanding.
In a 2-year turnaround, it's hard to get the results. But,
right.
But we think we're set up to do so.
Yes, especially with those students who are refugees, ELA, socioeconomic, all that, if it's not cut and dry, they're not going to pay attention, right? So I understand, I'm sympathetic to your struggles, and so I look forward to any progress that you make from here on out.
Scott Hansen.
I'm just have to echo, I think, what Board Member Hansen said a minute ago. I'm extremely disappointed not to have more information to look at today with what's on the line today, the actions that could be taken with the school. I don't know if you can help me to show with the last schools we were able to see some sort of an upward trajectory due to their efforts over the past 2 or 3 years. With nothing in front of us, it makes it very difficult for us to make a decision. And not willing maybe to just rubber stamp a recommendation without seeing something there. So is there something you can give us now to help us with that?
Hey, Matt, this is Matt Edvik. He's been the principal of the school the last 2 years, and he's the director of teacher improvement. So he'll be able to speak a little bit more to that.
So do I understand that the question is why there wasn't more documentation?
The question is, do you have any? I don't care about the why. I just wonder if you have any documentation you could give us. I'm even wondering if we can just bring you back another time, maybe a month later. I don't know if that's the case, but this just seems like it's not the right setup to make the decision we need to make.
We do have more documentation, and Lorraine had asked us to send it along to Max and Leslie, and we did. And so the documentation that we sent to the State Charter Board that we can send to you is that all of the independent groups that have come to our school have given us really high marks. So our EL education or expeditionary learning that we work with every year does an implementation review, and they come in and measure the implementation of their what's the word I'm looking for? Their core practices, and how are we doing on implementing the core practices. The year we entered turnaround, our implementation review score was 69. In order to be an accredited EL school, you have to at least have a score of 98. And we were at, I don't have it in front of me, but I want to say 89. And so there was some tremendous growth there. So that's one element there. The education direction mid-year reviews all showed growth in all of the things that we were implementing in the 5 dimensions that they measure. And we went from minimal or partial in all of those areas to sufficient or substantial in every area. That's curriculum, assessment, school culture, leadership. And then finally, we sent to the state charter board that we were up for accreditation last year, and Advance Ed came in and brought their team, and we were accredited with 0 standards of needs improvement based on their measures. So we had a few that were in the yellow that they said continue to work on, but there were 0 standards that were red or in the needs improvement area. Some other data, Eric talked about implementing the iReady data, and my role as Director of Teacher Improvement, I'm meeting with every teacher team every week, and we're looking at that data, and we are making decisions based on that data for instructions, for small grouping. We're restructuring what our small groupings look like based on that data and using the resources that we have to meet kids where they are. We hired 11 teachers the first year that we were in the turnaround program. That's half of our teaching staff, so 50% of our teachers were new, and most of those were brand new to the teaching profession. And so we've kept our teacher population steady, and we're ready to take those steps now of differentiation and small group instruction and those kinds of things. And so those are things that are implemented, and we can send you that information. So one other thing, we really struggled getting qualified math teachers, and at our school, the one middle school math teacher affects 150 students. And so that's an outsized impact. It's all of our middle school. And so we now have 2 very good math teachers, and we're seeing some early results that are significant. One of the measures in iReady is the annual typical progress that's measured against students all over the country. And then at the mid-year, they give you a median score of, it's kind of like the median growth percentile, but not exactly the same. But in our middle school, the median amount of growth, or that middle student, if you lined all the students up, had made over 100% of their annual growth already at the mid-year review. And so middle school math, which was exceptionally low over the last couple of years, is making significant growth and significant progress, and we're really excited about that.
I appreciate that update today, and I'm not sure what options we have, but I'd be more comfortable if we had a chance to look at this, if we could push this back.
Okay, Board Member Davis.
I was just wondering if you could, thank you for coming today, by the way, and just wondering if you could give us a picture of what your demographics in your school look like, either next month, if you come back and do a presentation, or now, or however we're moving forward with that. But I'm wondering if you could let us know what your ELL group looks like, your percent poverty, things like that.
So it's 57, just over 57% economic disadvantage, almost 26% ELL, 51% ethnic minority, and 14% special ed is what those demographics are.
Okay, does that answer?
So,
do you have a follow-up? Okay. Board Member Janet Cannon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion that perhaps we have the recommendations from the state review panel, but I think the feeling of the board is that they would like more information about this school, and they'd like to see a presentation from you folks about the school and what you're looking to do and what you have in mind before making a decision. So my motion would be to postpone action on this until next month and invite them to do a presentation for us next month.
We have a motion to postpone, to bring back next month.
Second.
We have seconds. Discussion to the motion. Yeah, Board Member Ellis.
I just, before we vote on this, wanted to see if they found their packet and can take care of that right now. They did. They found their information, and so I would recommend pulling this and letting them take care of it now, so they don't have to come out another time.
Okay, the motion is to postpone till next week. We have a second, or not next week, next month. But I hear what you're saying here, but you're not amending.
I'm asking to amend the motion, or to strike the amendment. Can I do that? No? Well, then I say vote no, so that they can present
Okay.
right now.
Okay. Vice Chair Brittany Cummins.
I would like to speak in favor of the motion, give them the opportunity to pull together their plans and their thoughts and what they would like to present to the board so that we can make a good informed decision. Otherwise, I worry that we would, so.
Board Member Linda Hansen.
I would like also for them to postpone just because I think they need to, like Brittany said, pull it all together and give us their best foot forward here instead of a last minute, we'll rush this together. So I'm voting in favor of the motion.
Board Member Belknap.
You know I'm the grumpy one on this, but also I am worried about them if there's any hope that this is going to happen. What are happening to their teachers who right now teachers are being hired for next year? What do these teachers do? What do the admin do? What do the children do in preparation? I think that's something we need to consider by postponing.
Board Member Bolter.
Do you have a presentation right now ready to go that you can give us? I'm hearing that you do.
They were looking at it. We gave a presentation to the charter board, and so that's, we had one prepared for that. I just have my phone in front of me, so they're looking to see if they have that. So I don't have that in front of me. One other thing, and again, we know that we're in this position, but we do have a lottery coming up, and that's important. And we do have teacher fairs coming up, and that's important as well. So we are very sorry we didn't have that presentation. We were unaware that that was the next step here. We've been going through this process for 3 years, and we kind of feel like this has been the whole process for 3 years. Is we get shut down, we get cut off, we get come back, and so it's a tad frustrating when we I think we have 8 or 9 teachers here in the crowd who are here because they are worried about what tomorrow brings. So again, we will take your recommendation. We will bring a presentation back in a month if that's what your recommendation is. But if there's any way that we can continue to talk through and figure out what we have, we would love to be able to present and get an answer.
Okay, Board Member Scott Nielsen.
I move the previous question.
Okay, we have a motion to previous question. We'll end debate. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. Okay, with the ayes, raise your hand. To be counted, Board Member Nielsen, Board Member Hansen.
I thought it was to end debate.
Yeah, to end debate. To end discussion, to vote on the motion. Did you guys get that? To end debate. So, not, okay.
I think they're all in favor. Yes.
Hold it. All in favor say aye. Those opposed? I didn't hear an opposed. Okay. The motion is to postpone this discussion till next month and bring back a presentation. Correct? Okay. We'll vote on that motion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. Yeah. Yes. Will the ayes raise your hand to be called on? Board Member Scott Nielsen, Board Member Scott Hansen, Board Member what? Board Member Hansen. Hey, call this. We have a motion, and to have it come back, and that's what everyone's acting. That's what we're voting on. So if you could, I'd like to count the votes. Board Member Scott Nielsen, Board Member Scott Hansen, Board Member Gravitt, Board Member Newell, Board Member Hansen, Board Member Cannon, Board Member Brittany Cummins, Board Member Mark Huntsman. Did I get you? Did I miss one? Yeah. Board Member Bolter. Do you have the notes? Yeah. So we're going to welcome you back. Okay, one second. Was that, I'm just, you know where that motion went. Okay. So the motion passes. Okay. Board Member Linda Hansen.
And maybe we can talk about this offline, but I think this is the first time you guys have been here, right? You say we're supposed to, that people have told you to come and not come, and they're always kind of cutting you out. I'd like to kind of know what that's about, because I don't know what that would have come from. So let's.
Yeah, so the turnaround program in Cohort 1, we were in, then the criteria has changed, and even with picking, and so it's not been this board, it's been the law, the process. And so, picking our contractor changed, the process changed at the last minute. The way the needs assessment happened changed until it got set up. Then after year one, they kind of said, well, hold on, don't do anything for a little while until we figure out what the next cohort looks like. And then they talked about us being Cohort 2. And then they went back to, no, you got to be in Cohort law because that's the law. The charter board has invited us in to kind of ask, because they didn't know at the time either. So we've been in multiple meetings trying to explain what we know. And so it's just been
confusing.
It's been very confusing and frustrating. And again, we were, if we were told today, hey, bring a presentation, here's what this looks like. We did this in January for the charter board. We were not aware that that's again what we needed to do. So again, just clarification through the process would be as you go through the next cohorts, make sure that you over clarify. And so that's.
Thanks for making us aware. That's
okay.
Great.
Board Member Bolter.
So since I was on the prevailing side, I can bring back that vote because they just had their presentation up.
I asked them to put it down because you made a motion to not.
Right, and there was a reason why I changed my no vote to a yes, so that I could be on the prevailing side to bring it back so that they could present. I mean, they're here with their presentation. Why waste another month when they've got a lottery to do? They've got teachers. Their teachers are sitting here trying to figure out.
Make a motion to bring it back. Thank you.
That we allow them to present. No, she has to move to reconsider. I move to reconsider the previous question.
Okay, we need a second.
They're here.
Second.
We have a second.
On the prevailing side has to second.
Okay. So the motion is to bring it back. Discussion to that.
Someone from the prevailing side.
Somebody's got a second on the prevailing side. Second here.
Thank you, Brittany.
Okay. So we're discussion to the motion to bring it back.
So I'd like to speak to that.
Yes, you may.
They've got their presentation here. They've given it already. So there's nothing that they've got to gather. Their teachers are here anxiously waiting to figure out what's happening. They've got a lottery to do. I say we let them go ahead and present and listen to them instead of postponing it another month. They're here, they're ready.
Okay. We're speaking to the motion to bring it back. Board Member Ellis.
I agree with that, and I hope that you will consider this. Communication is key, and this school came and presented to the charter board a month ago, and so this is a fresh presentation on their mind. They weren't given clear communication as to what to expect today because they just presented to the charter board. I don't know what's in their mind, but I'm guessing they thought that that was what the presentation was. And then the charter board made a recommendation. They came and presented. There wasn't clear communication to them what to expect today. I apologize if in presenting at the last minute they're not on their A game, but I hope that you can wrap your head around it if this passes and get on your A game. Don't be defensive about what's happened. Show what's moving forward and do what you need to do to make things happen. But the lack of communication is not their fault. And so I hope that we can be a little bit lenient and let them, while they're here, do this.
Board Member Lisa Cummins.
I'm going to concur with what's already said. I don't think we as a board want to set precedent that we're not going to be accommodating when we already have people prepared and ready to present.
Board Member Belknap.
Yes, I'd like to ask the board chair if you really are ready to present. We're assuming that you want to do that.
We very much are willing to do that
Okay.
and eager to do that. Thank you.
Okay, the motion before us is to bring this back. I'm not seeing any further discussion. Let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We have one no. Okay, we're going to go into your
Now they have to vote on, that was just to reconsider.
reconsider.
Oh.
That was to reconsider the action, now they actually have to have.
Now we have to-
Sorry.
Hold it.
That's just to bring the motion back.
Okay, so, the motion, the motion to postpone, we had that we ended on a postpone, and so now what was the motion on the table was to accept it.
Reconsider their action on it. So they voted that they will reconsider the action, they have to now vote.
Oh, that's right. Now we have to do it again, so there's a lot of redundancy in this. So I need a motion. Okay, board member, it's the same. Okay, well, because we brought it back, now we're going to, a motion to continue. But it's not Janet's motion, original motion.
It's just the body's motion.
Body motion
Until
to-
next month, that's what they're re-voting on. They're re-voting on.
Oh, so we're going to vote on it again okay, yeah, I've got it now. All right, it's been a long couple days, so we're voting on whether we're going to bring them back next month. That is what it is. Okay, not seeing any discussion. All in favor to have them come back next month for their presentation. That is a motion before. All in favor say aye. I'm trying to get, is that a yes? Aye. We have 2 ayes. Those, and 3. I'm trying to, okay. Those opposed?
No.
Okay,
We have 8 no's.
yes,
Okay.
yes. Okay, well, it's back. Okay.
You guys understand what we just did? Switch.
Yes. Yeah, we're going to listen to a presentation. Yep, I got it. Okay, but does it come back to the motion? Okay, but she had.
No, that's superseded by the motion.
Okay, all right, we're going to invite your presentation.
Okay, so as you can see, this is our school improvement documentation, and these are, like I said earlier, the reports that are from those agencies that we have worked with, EL Education, Ed Direction.
Hey, can we get you to reintroduce yourself so we've
I'm
got it in
Matt
there?
Edvik,
Okay, thank you.
Director of Teacher Improvement for Entheos
Okay, thank you.
Academy. And so the first piece of documentation that we have there, yeah, I'll scroll. Is a letter to the Utah State Charter School Board. This packet contains the evidence of the story of school improvement for Entheos Academy Magna Campus over the 3-year turnaround process. The companies that we worked with were Advanced Ed, Ed Direction, and EL Education. Advanced Ed came to our school and did the accreditation, and I talked about this, and I won't read this word for word, but the areas that all 3 of the groups that came and assessed our school assessed us on were alignment of curriculum and standards, classroom instruction and student engagement, assessment practices, culture and collaborative relationships, and leadership. I do want to share this last piece here. Sorry, I'm not on my own computer. There we go. we feel that this documentation supports a story of growth and success in implementing best practices in the school. If granted an extension, the good work that is documented here will continue to go on and the school will continue to improve. And I know that that language of granting an extension probably isn't the accurate language. But if we look at the Advanced Ed Accreditation Report.
Can I ask you a quick question on
Yes.
that letter? It's signed by your board. Is that your present board? Is that, I mean,
That's-
usually you see a signature from a board president.
That's,
There's that, the assumption that the board made. Who's signed, can you go back to that real
Yep.
fast? Who's making the statement?
the Board of Directors, Administration, and Teaching Staff of Entheos Academy.
Thank you.
So to highlight the stakeholder groups as the accreditation process went through, 2 board members were talked to, 2 administrators, 24 instructional staff, 10 support staff, 50 students, and 5 parents. And I wanted to just get to the final findings here. As you can see, the chart, this chart shows the institution ratings across the 3 domains that they measured, and you can see that there are 0 of the standards that are under needs improvement, with 10 as emerging standards of emerging implementation, 18 that meets expectations, and 2 that exceeds expectations. And we were very interested in the Advanced Ed report because these are people who haven't worked with our school before. These are people who are coming in, and we work with EL Education, and they do their review, and we've worked with Ed Direction, and they do their review. But this was people who hadn't seen our school before, and they came in and approved our accreditation with 0 standards as needs improvement. And I wanted to show the Ed Direction ratings, and I'm looking for the summary page there.
I'm almost keeping up with that.
Okay, I was gonna. Are any of you speed readers? If I hit this button. Let's see. Whoops, too far. Did that help? So in the summary of our 2018 mid-year review, you can see that in all of the areas that we were rated either sufficient or substantial, and that's coming from being partial or minimal in all of the areas in the beginning year that we had our needs assessment done. And then as far as the EL implementation review, like I said, these are EL Education will come in and do a review of how well we are implementing their core practices, and these are the core practices that they rate us on. And this was the first year that we entered turnaround. Our score was 69. We were one of the lowest schools, if not the lowest school in the entire West and Intermountain region as far as the implementation of the actual EL model. And over the next couple of years, we finished our final, in 2018, our implementation review score was at 92. And so some substantial improvement in implementing those core standards. It's on your email, and you can open it to see better. And so while this doesn't share the SAGE scores, we know that those didn't come back at a level to exit turnaround or to be granted an extension. We feel like this tells a story of implementation and of good work at the school, and that if we are allowed more time, we will see that growth in those scores, and some of that is has been indicated through our iReady diagnostics and what we talked about with middle school math, with restructuring our middle school math program and the gains that kids are seeing. That's not in this report. Those scores hadn't come back yet before we met with the state charter board.
My system went asleep here. Oh, there we go. It's booting back up. Board Member Ellis?
Thank you. Can you tell us a little bit more on page 15? It talks about the findings. I'd like you to go through the powerful practices that were currently in place when these findings were found, but the opportunities for improvement, what was found specifically, and what you're doing in very specific terms to alleviate those.
So on page 15, and that is...
I may be looking at the wrong page. Sorry, 11.
Oh, page 11.
I got onto full screen, and now I can't see the page number that I'm on, so can I have my computer?
Yep.
Oops, sorry. Okay. And so, restate your question, sorry.
Sorry, if you, on your page, you have it page number 11.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to go down a little bit more. You talk about the primary, there's powerful practices that were found, things that you're already doing that were good. I just wonder if you would give us a little bit more information on those. And then the things that were found that need improvement, those are the things that we need to see changes in. And so I just wanted to see if you could tell us what those need improvement items were specifically and what you are doing to address them.
Okay, so you want both of those?
Yes.
Okay, so the powerful practices...
So that you can highlight what's good and tell us what you're going to do to fix.
So one of the first power practice was programs that expose students to different opportunities, and one of those is our Discovery program, which is something that we do at both schools, which is hugely popular in our elementary school. And the basis of that program is to allow students to have opportunities to do things that they might not ever do. And so over the course of the year, each student gets 3 to 4 opportunities to select classes where community members come in and teach classes such as Samba Fogo, gymnastics, golf, what are some of the other ones? Rock climbing, scuba diving. They do performing arts. There's a puppetry class that will come in. There's the drum bus will come. Social dance, they do that, and then they'll do a recital. And so that's a really robust program that allows students to have those experiences that they might not otherwise have, and develop interests that that they can carry forward. Just an anecdotal, a couple of anecdotal pieces to that. One of the classes is art and painting, and we had a girl who got severe migraines, and that lasted for months and months and months, and she had said to us, painting and art, that was what got me through this time, and it's what I learned in Discovery. My daughter took a golf class, and now her and I go golfing together, and it's really exciting and fun. And so that's a really strong program that we felt like even through the turnaround process was important that we keep intact and that we pursue and keep robust and allow students to have those opportunities. In the middle school, they have an adventure program, and that's where curricular-based trips outside of the school, many of them are overnight, that are curriculum-based, and so students are able to have that experience also. Crew was another piece in the powerful practice, and that's our structure that we have in place to make sure that each student is known really well by an adult and has a group of students and at least one staff member that feels kind of like their family at school. And that's been a big piece of the change in our culture among our teachers and our students is implementing that crew process with fidelity. So another powerful practice is our formalized process for the identification and referral of students who need additional assistance, services, and resources. And that is something that we are also, it was a powerful practice, but we also are improving that also. And that comes through getting better data with the assessments that we have had. One of the things that we noticed with our newer teachers is we wanted them to be giving common assessments. We wanted to be making decisions based on those assessments. And the assessments, frankly, weren't rigorous enough. And so that's where we went to, we need to find a program that can give us standard level assessments that are rigorous, that we can know really where our kids are and be able to make decisions based on that. And that facilitated our decision to implement the iReady program. Our opportunity for improvement, number one, develop a process that uses data to assess personnel needs, qualifications, and talent to continue to retain effective personnel. We have a history of teacher turnover, and it's been very acute. I don't have the number in front of me, but I want to say over the last 3 years, our teacher retention has been at 80%, and we really are keeping the teachers that we want to keep. We've made some decisions personnel-wise of areas where the teachers weren't succeeding with students, and we've made those changes.
It was 45% the year we went into turnaround, and it's been 78% the 3 years since.
So Director Robbins said it was 45% when we went into turnaround, and it's been 78% since then. Provide professional development on how to create and interpret a cohesive set of formative assessments that lead to improved instructional practices, demonstrable improvement of student achievement and success for individual and collective group of learners. This is really the major work in our work plan this year is getting better data so that we can make better decisions. And like I said, I am meeting with each of the teacher teams weekly to go over the data on those assessments. We're looking at the Dibbles Amplify data, and we're looking at what our teachers doing in small group instruction to be able to support students who aren't making the typical progress. We did make the typical progress, our uniform growth goal last year. We're a little bit under that at the middle of the year this year, and so we're addressing that with some more intensive coaching and support from our EL school designer, who will be on campus about once a week and working with those teachers. But I'm meeting with teachers weekly, and we're looking at those assessments that we are giving through iReady that are standard specific, and we're doing the item analysis, and we're looking at what exactly are kids not getting. We're developing small groups to address those specific areas where kids are missing the instruction. And like I said, we're seeing growth in those areas. And some of those groups are just getting started, and we have a grant that's allowing us to do even more groups. We have 10 after-school groups that are doing targeted tutoring for an hour per week. Increase instructional opportunities that promote higher levels of learning, engagement, creativity, innovation, critical thinking, problem solving, application of knowledge, and self-reflection, and include completion of projects and inquiry-based activities. And so our focus this year, another one of our focuses in our work plan is engagement. And our goal is to have at least 50% active engagement in our classrooms and less than 10% of downtime or off-task behavior. Our leadership team has been doing observations of teachers throughout the year and working with teachers on specific engagement strategies. And our latest round of observations showed that we had 54% active engagement in throughout the school, but our off-task and downtime was at 15%. So we have some work to do there, but it was above 20% when we started tracking that at the beginning of the year. That goes through all of the improvement priorities and the power practices. Any other questions?
Board Member Hanson?
I was just reading, that on your parent survey, that parents say that you have a bullying problem, right? My student has been insulted, teased, harassed, or otherwise verbally abused more than once at Entheos. 40% of parents agree or strongly agree with that. So tell me what you're doing to work on that.
I'll let you take that
speak
one.
to that. Can I turn this on? All right. Yes, I can speak to that. So I'm currently the director. I've worked at the school the last few years as the assistant director, and I would like to just say that my experience has been, I joined the school the first year of the turnaround program. There's been a lot of changes the first couple years. This school has transformed in lots of ways. Most of them have been in the structures of the school, the culture of the school, like was mentioned, the teacher retention, the student retention, the things that are kind of foundational. Those have improved tremendously at our school. And all the feedback that we've received from these outside agencies has been, you're doing the right things, you're taking the right steps, and the changes are there. And we haven't gotten any of those, like the needs assessment didn't reveal any of those red flags, big things. But we've made a lot of changes and steps in that direction. And what we found is that and I'll get to your bullying one. I know that was the question originally. What we found with the test scores is that has not come to fruition yet. And we've realized this year that we needed to do a lot more focused effort on those groups. We found that we have a group of students who are excelling, and we had a lot of students that weren't improving at all. And it was very polarizing that we had these different groups. So by implementing iReady, and that's really helped us to differentiate our instruction across the school, because we have 7th graders who need a lot of help in the 3rd grade level curriculum. And that has not been what we've been doing. We've just been giving people their grade level, instruction. And we've been able to restructure things significantly, that we've been able to address the needs of each student. iReady helps us to do those diagnostics and bring students into very specific groups that need the same thing, and we've been able to target those groups. We have well over 20 groups that we've created. We're giving instruction during the day and after school, and our numbers have gone way up. In math and reading, we have a lot of data to show that our students are meeting their goals. iReady gives them a goal for the year of what they should do to increase for that year, and many of our students have already met it halfway through the year. Many of them have far surpassed that goal into the 400% range. So there's been a lot of growth this year, and I think it stands on the shoulders of the previous years that we've made our more foundational changes. Our instructional leadership team is now they're meeting with every single teacher, doing observations and giving feedback twice a month. Our director of teacher improvement is meeting with every teacher once a week. They're looking at data, they're making changes, and we're seeing the progress. We're seeing the improvement right now. We weren't seeing the improvement in the grades the last couple of years. We were seeing it in the culture. We were seeing it in the structures that we have in place and the teacher retention and things like that that really form the base of our next step, which we're seeing this year. To speak to the bullying issue, that was a big problem. A couple years ago, we saw, and I don't want to make excuses or throw the blame anywhere. I try to make it a point to meet with the parents of all of our new students. We have a very high mobility rate. We have a lot of new students every year. Being a charter school, they get to just choose us. 9 times out of 10, our new students, especially in the upper grades, they're choosing us because they were having a lot of problems at their previous school. And they're trying to have a fresh start. And what we found is that our culture has developed to a place where after about a year, that's better. That we get these students that push against our culture, and our students are at a place where they don't tolerate that, and it's not acceptable, and we're seeing changes in our most challenging students. And that's been something we've been extremely proud about, and our teachers are very proud about, that we're seeing these students really adapt to a positive culture. When that specific data that came out about the bullying, where 40% of the parents agreed with that was at a parent meeting where parents were invited to come and meet with representatives from the charter board. Again, I don't want to make a lot of excuses, but a lot of the parents who decided to show up to that meeting were parents that wanted to talk about their problems. When we sent out the survey, the email survey, the feedback was extremely positive. We had a much bigger sampling. When I've invited the parents to come and talk to me, that has not been the feedback we've gotten. It's been extremely positive that we've been dealing with those issues of bullying, and they felt very satisfied with those changes we made to our school culture in the last few years.
Okay, yes, let me turn this back on and follow up, and then we have some other questions.
So you're saying that you don't think the findings are accurate?
I think.
So I asked
maybe
what
not
you were
true.
going to do to work on it, and,
Okay.
but what you said was you don't feel like the findings were
no,
accurate.
there
Is
is
that right?
No, that's not necessarily correct. I think it was from a very small sampling, and bullying is an issue. I don't know if it's a bigger issue at our school than any other one. It's not a bigger issue at our school than other schools I've worked at, but it's something that we take extremely seriously and we've been working on. We sent teachers to trainings on restorative justice practices. We've been implementing a lot of those.
Okay, that's good.
We've hired one of our best teachers as part-time dean of students to address those issues very specifically. We've hired some other staff members to help support some of those behaviors to be proactively pushed into the classrooms in some of our more challenging classes to make sure that we're kind of heading off any of those issues before they arise. And I've felt very confident that those things are being addressed, and we've had the infractions at our school that have been anything of violence or bullying have plummeted. It's been an extreme difference from when I started 3 years ago to right now.
Okay.
And one of those structures, they have crew in the morning and afternoon where they get that time. The crew curriculum is around, around bullying, around, interacting with other students, around creating a sense of community. That we have created curriculum that is taught in those crew structures around that as well. That's one of those things that we've implemented to kind of show, look, we're in this together. One of our things is that this is a community. You join this community, and we got to figure this out. And so that restorative justice has been a good in that crew process as well, because they can talk about it as a crew with their peers that they're with all year long. That hey, I've noticed that you were kind of mean to this kid in the hall, and they can have that conversation with a group of 10 to 15 students rather than one-on-one with a principal or assistant principal.
Okay, thank you.
And part of that process also, and one of our goals this year was to develop and implement habits of character and learning, and kindness was one of those that was chosen specifically for that, to directly and explicitly teach what does kindness look like, what does it sound like, what does it feel like, and recognizing those things within that crew environment is one of the things that we've done.
Board Member Gravitt?
I have two questions, if that's okay.
Yes.
The first one, so you've improved teacher retention, which is, I think you said from like 48% to 78 or something like that. When I looked online, I noticed that the average teacher salary is quite low. So I guess, first of all, I want to know, what have you been doing to increase, because that's huge for student achievement. So what have you been doing to increase teacher retention? How'd you make that happen?
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know if I have all the answers to that, but we've hired really good teachers. And we've hired teachers that really want to turn the school around and are very committed. And I don't know how low our salaries are compared to everyone else, but they're teachers, right? And they're not in it for the money. But we've created an environment where teachers are happy working, and they're feeling that fulfillment from seeing positive changes in their students. And that number, so we've reached a 78 or 75% of the retention. And as was mentioned by Mr. Edvick, we haven't had any teachers leave to teach down the street.
Oh.
We haven't had any. The teachers that we've not retained, it's been our choice because we haven't seen the progress and the performance in the classroom, and they've been replaced with tremendous teachers. And we feel like we're kind of poised this year to make a lot of gains. And with that restructuring, as was mentioned, we had a math teacher for the whole middle school that was not performing. And we saw that for the 2 years we were in that turnaround program under the microscope. This year we have we separated those into two smaller groups, and we have two highly qualified teachers who are seeing that change this year.
Oh, I think that's commendable. The other thing, I just need some clarification, or maybe I need you to comfort me on this. So when I'm looking at the data gateway and I'm taking English language arts, for example, you guys go from 20% proficient to 14 to 13. That trend kind of concerns me. And then the NGP, the growth factor, is lowest of comparable schools. You said things are improving with your, I guess it's your iReady program. Can you assure me that academics are improving, standards are improving, proficiency is improving?
I can say yes, yeah. You may be able to
Make
speak
me
more
trust
to
you.
this specific-
Yeah, so we feel more confident than we ever have that we really know where our kids are, and that especially in middle school math that we're seeing tremendous growth. And language arts, when we implemented our new curriculum through EL education, the modules, we saw a lot of growth the first year, and then it just kind of leveled off. The growth percentile was lower, and like Mr. Storr said, even what we've seen in our iReady data for reading is that we have about half of our kids are well above their typical growth pattern, and then there's about half of them who aren't, and those are the kids that we are now working with in those small groups and really targeting those specific standards that they are struggling with. And so for sure in math, our kids are getting better and stronger, and reading, that's our big push right now, is to make sure that happens. And we feel like we have the tools to really track that growth and that progress, and that's something that we're reporting monthly to our board, and monthly that's going to the state charter board. And if you guys want that from us monthly, we're willing to send that report on to the State Board of Education too, so that you can see, hey, this is where we are.
Board Member Linda Hansen.
I move that we adopt the review panel's recommendations.
Second.
We have a motion to, did you get the second? To adopt the review panel's recommendations. Discussion to that motion?
Can I speak to my motion? Would that be okay?
Yes, you may.
I think you guys probably think I'm being tough, but I want you to know the reason why I'm tough is because these are my constituents. This is my district, okay? And I feel a huge responsibility to make sure that they have good schools to go to. And so I think you've answered my questions. I hope you're successful. I'll still be coming out to visit you and talking to parents about your school, which I do online quite often. And so, but I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt and hope that you can continue and turn Antheos around.
And I just want to make a couple comments here. From just my perspective, not speaking for the board, is I'm really a little bit disappointed in the accountability piece, where from your board, whether you're a new board member or whatever, the board accepting responsibility for the decisions that they've made in the past, and or the supervisory group in here as we watch the numbers and what's been happening here, especially on a charter school, where charter schools, and many times in this board, they say, hey, there's supposed to be this experiment, and we can always do it better than somebody else. And so this accountability piece, I take really serious on my end, and I think this board does also. And so if it's by the numbers, by whatever the communication is, it's about managing expectations. I have an expectation, and I think I can speak for we as a board, we have an expectation, minimum expectations, that you guys and your board is going to make education happen. And we're having this discussion because this is turnaround and it's hard and there's circumstances that bring us to this point. But I hope you understand the magnitude of the responsibility you have, and also the accountability at this point as this is moving forward. And hopefully you guys have a board that's behind you that's steering the ship to make these good things, these wonderful things that you're proposing happen moving forward. So I hope you don't take it personal, but there is that expectation that hasn't been met, and that's why we're having this. So that's all I've got to say about that. And I think the superintendent, the board president's got something to say.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Huntsman. Appreciate that. And just let me voice on behalf of the board that we do have that understanding, and we very much appreciate the chance to be here today and the chance to present today. We've received great guidance from the State Charter Board. We appreciate what they have done to help us navigate through what's been a difficult process. We feel as a board we've been very active in making strategic decisions and putting key team members in the right positions through this process and in response to this process, so that we can serve these children the best we possibly can. We're very proud of the fact that we're the only charter school in the Magna area. We feel like there's a big need there, and we look forward to being successful there. We have encountered challenges there that we didn't encounter in Kearns, and so this is where we are today. We are confronting those, and we feel like we've got things in place now that we've got things heading in the right direction. So thank you very much.
Discussion to the motion, Board Member Scott Hansen.
I appreciate the information you provided, and that's helped me to understand a little bit where things are. I'm still concerned, though, about this iReady data that I think would maybe help us to understand a little bit more about student learning. and the outcomes there. I've heard a lot, but I haven't seen anything in what I've seen here and in the state database that shows that that's happening. I'd move to amend the motion to bring the academy back 1 year from now to give us an interim report and perhaps take action rather than extend it for the whole 2-year period. So I'd like to make a motion to amend to have the review period 1 year, or an interim review at 1 year.
So the amendment to the motion is to limit the review to
have an interim review.
Not to limit, to have an interim review in 1 year.
from now.
And I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion to that motion. Vice Chair Brittany Cummins.
Just a question. The intent of the interim review is that we may take action?
Under the statute, that we would take any applicable action as we're allowed. Yes.
Okay.
I'm just writing something down here. Board Member Ellis.
I would support this if it were just the 1 year check-in, but I don't support the part about taking action and not giving them the full time, so I won't support the amendment.
That's not for the motion.
I restated the motion not to take any action. So did I state the motion correctly?
Not my intent. My intent would be if we're going to have a review period, there would be an opportunity for them to take action. I don't see there's no purpose in the review if we don't have others take action.
So it's with the opportunity to take action.
Again, maybe I can clarify.
Okay, do you want to, yes, Board Member Scott Hansen.
Thank you, I apologize. The intent would not be that the academy has to meet all the criteria in the turnaround, in the plan that's been laid out, just that we could review and then take appropriate action.
Okay, Board Member Ellis.
I just am making an amendment to split that motion. Split
amendment-
it so that the action is separate from the report. So we can vote on those two items separately.
Okay, is there a second? Second. Okay, discussion to splitting the amendment to the motion. Board Member Bolter.
I was going to speak on something else, so.
Okay, I'm not seeing any other discussion, so we'll vote on the amendment to split the amendment. Got it. It is getting late. The motion to split. Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Okay, will the ayes be recognized? What's that?
Just do the no's.
Okay, who are the no's? There's,
5 no's, right?
yeah.
So the motion
Okay, motion carries, so it's split. That barely passes. Okay, so we're splitting this. The first part of splitting the amendment to the motion is to, on the amendment is that there'll be interim review. Oh.
The first part, approve the recommendation.
No, those are the two amendments. Yeah, so now we have two amendments to the original motion. Okay? So the two amendments would be the interim review in 1 year, and then that's what we split it. The second part is with the opportunity to take action. Okay, so let's vote on the first part to amend the motion to have an interim review in 1 year. So let's vote on that. Not saying any discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, motion carries. The second part of the split on the amendment is with the opportunity to take action in 1 year. Discussion to that motion, Vice Chair Brittany Cummins. I about said Vice President. We've been here a while.
So my question to this request is that part of the requirements that are set up in the recommendation from the committee is that they will undergo a new needs assessment, set new criteria and a new plan, et cetera. And so what would be the criteria after a year of implementing a 2-year plan be? And so that would be my question. So what would we take action on? Would it just be that they haven't done or followed through with the beginning process of that 2-year plan? Or, so I guess it's just, how would we establish the criteria of taking action at that interim point if they're setting a 2-year plan as part of the recommendations?
Okay, would that be a question for staff? I guess the question, what you're trying to get, to, what would we have in 1 year within this plan to bring back what measurable progress, what could be milestones? I'm thinking that's what what could we, an assessment.
Under what criteria would we be able to do?
Okay, let me turn this back on. Under what criteria?
Yeah, so the question is, under what criteria would we be able to take action at that interim point? So
Where
other
did
than
our
being
staff go?
subjective.
We're going to invite staff up. Well, staff is coming up. Board Member Ellis.
My request is that we also have Director Lambert tell what they are doing to report to the Charter Board as well.
I guess the question, Lambert.
Well, well, the question is, what are we going to have a year from now to assess or evaluate? So, who is going to have something? Okay. Okay.
I did.
Will you say your name again?
I'm learning. One of the major stipulations of turnaround is that what gets you in gets you out. In other words, the measures and scores. So I would think we were out of line with that part of the rule there, and we wouldn't necessarily have that data at that time. I guess a year from now would be February 20. So that would be my comment, that I don't know what data you would use or criteria you would use that would be in line with rule.
Chair, may I say
Yes,
something?
Angie.
So our rule and statute don't really, haven't clarified what happens after we get to this point. So normally at this point, you're supposed to take action, and it doesn't state that depending on your action, they continue to be a turnaround school or not. We essentially don't have clarity beyond once you take action. So the question is, if you're going to ask them to come back in a year, is that as a request as a normal school? Is it because you're hoping to have them continue and turn around? And this was part of earlier when we said we didn't quite have all the answers because we weren't ready, that we may need to do more research depending on what it is you are hoping for. Not that you don't have authority, but I guess we couldn't anticipate all the potential actions you might take today. So I don't know if that's helpful, probably not. But I think you could ask them to come back. The question is, when they come back, are they still a turnaround school or not? Or is it part of your action? Because again, the rule does not govern the board. The rule governed the committee's actions and recommendations to you, because when R277920 was created, it doesn't say the board shall, because you all now have the authority to take action. So hopefully that's helpful. I believe if you took action, asked them to come back in a year, obviously you can ask schools to come back.
Did you have a follow-up?
Let's go follow. So my question is, is part of this in this recommendation is embedded school closure at the end of 2 years if they do not meet the criteria. And so if we were to take action at year 1, right, well, it's not just a matter of fairness or not fairness, but under what authority would we be using to close a school? Do we have the authority to close a school? Because this is all, right, this recommendation is part of the turnaround process. If we're going outside of that process, do we have the authority to close a school at year 1, or would we be taking other actions? So I guess I'm speaking against this motion because I think there's enough embedded in the recommendation that allows them to work towards it, and then the recommendation includes closure of the school if they do not follow through or come out of the criteria. So that's just my...
Jennifer Lambert.
I think this information may be helpful to you as you're making your decisions. The State Charter School Board is part of the warning process. We have already implemented some checkpoints. So one of the terms is that by the end of this school year, they have to make at least halfway progress to being able to earn the sufficient points to meet the exit criteria as defined in the panel's recommendation. We also have stipulated that they cannot be in the bottom 3% the end of this year in the new accountability results. And so we will be reviewing them in, 6 months at the end of this year, or whenever we can get accountability results back. And if they do fail to do so, we could move them to another level in our oversight. We're hoping that we don't have to do that, of course, but for your information, there is oversight that is happening.
And then what? How long does that process take?
So according to our oversight process, you have warning. Above warning is probation. According to your board rule, we cannot keep a school on probation longer than a year. The next step after probation is termination.
It's about the same time. Sorry, Chair.
Yes.
Board Member Bolter.
So it sounds to me like the process you just described is pretty much the same process as about the same time frame as the 2-year. And I just do not feel comfortable when they have this analysis and then they're given 2 years to say after 1 year, sorry, it's not good enough for us. I mean, how much data will they have after 1 year to really be able to make a good decision to shut them? I mean, we're talking about closing down a school. And so I would rather give the full 2 years before we even make a decision like that that's going to impact parents who are choosing this school to send their children there. It's not a charter school that they have to go to because of their boundary. They're choosing to go there. And so I want to give them the full amount of time.
Board Member Scott Hansen.
Yeah, I am concerned about the 3 years that have passed already, and extending that another 2 years seems like a long time to me, and that's why I'd like the review. I also think under the code, I'm looking at 53E 5306 4. The board, this says if a low-performing school does not meet exit criteria, and the last part of that, the board may close the school or close a charter school, terminate charter, but then other appropriate action as determined by the board. And I believe that under that, we can take action that we feel is appropriate here, and if that includes a checkup after a year to see, I believe we'll have another year of test data to look at in a year. And if there's not a trend up, then we may make a different decision than what we make today. But that's how I feel about the situation that we're in.
Okay. Board Member Gravitt.
I hope this is an okay question to ask, and I'm wondering if somebody can tell me the administrative salaries compared with teacher salaries at this school.
I believe, I do not have that information right off. I don't know if the school is prepared to answer that kind of question.
just.
It's a little
Teacher
personal.
salaries are so low.
There's only so many.
They're so low, and I just,
Hang on
it's
one
public
sec.
money, and I
Let me adjust,
would
yeah.
like to know the ratio.
Yeah, so we can definitely get you that information. That's not a problem.
Thank you.
I
I
don't
would
have
like
that on me, but we can definitely get that for you.
How soon?
Monday.
Oh, okay.
Board member.
Yeah, I don't need each person. I just want a general, like, can't you just look at a salary schedule
Yeah.
online right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just thought I could do that, so. Board member Davis.
Having been on the prevailing side, can I recall this and move that we meet again in 16 months instead of 12 months, which would give us 2 cycles of data, and it would follow more closely in line with what the charter school board timeline looks like? Because all the information you're going to.
We have a motion on the floor with the opportunity to take action. They're already coming back in a year. I mean, that move forward, it's not in the final motion, so then what we're talking about is the opportunity to take action. You can propose an amendment on with the opportunity to take action in 18 months. Is that what you're?
16.
16 months, excuse me. You could, if you choose to, make an amendment to that.
Well, not to this motion. They've got to take care of this motion.
Well, this can be amended when we're,
They
it's
already
split.
voted on that, so I'm not sure they can vote on the same thing without reconsidering.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
No, we did this.
Yeah, and so they already voted on the 12 months to bring back, so they'd have to reconsider their action on that. They already made a vote on it. Didn't they?
Yeah, yes, we did.
Yeah,
Okay,
we need to take care of this motion.
so we have to take care of this, we have to put this motion to bed with the opportunity to take action. This is your meeting. Vice Chair Brittany Cummins.
So if I would just like to, under the turnaround rule that was just read to us, that was the legislation, excuse me, or, right? You read the legislation? The law, yes, thank you. Okay, and so it gave if a school does not exit turnaround, the board has the opportunity to take action, and it gives the authority for us to take action. And so that's where we are today. And so the action that we have before us is this recommendation. And so maybe the appropriate place to amend our desired action is within the body, because if we just postpone or does that make sense? So you're amending it to say we're going to take action, possible action a year early. And my question is, under what criteria? And so could we add to it the the criteria that is established for extension currently in the turnaround? So if they make enough progress to meet the extension criteria in 1 year, that it would continue at that 1 year mark. And then if they don't, that the rest of the recommendation kicks in at the 1 year mark. Is that your intention? Sorry, I know I'm not supposed to be speaking directly to a board member.
Okay,
Asking
but I think
questions,
you're
but-
fine. Is that,
Okay.
was that the intent?
The intent, I don't know what things look like a year from now, but I think without the ability to take some sort of action, either direct more resources to be there, do some other sort of helpful action, or terminate the charter and close the school, something like that, the review doesn't have a lot of purpose if we cannot do something at that point. And the law leaves it open to, other appropriate action by the board. I think we decide at that time what's appropriate under the circumstances. Hopefully, all the indicators are up and we say, hey, let's go and we'll finish out this 2-year probation and be done. But if that's not the case, I don't think we should limit ourselves.
Board Member Ellis.
Thank you. I'm going to speak against this motion again because I just feel like the turnaround process is First of all, I'm not a fan of it in the first place, but it's supposed to be a benefit and a help to the school. And when we put a school in a place where the entire process is frustrating, they're already having to be accountable to the charter board. The charter board has put actions in place. So then now they have, if we pass this, then we double up on top of them what they're already having to do for the charter board. And so it's just more time consuming for the school that takes away from their focus at the school, because now they have to focus on what they have to do up here, because now they're having to report to both us and the charter board. And I mean, if that's what people vote to do, you know, whatever, they'll do it, I'm sure, but that just seems tedious and
And it seems like
cumbersome on the board.
seems like the charter board already has a plan in place that happens in a year anyway. Jennifer Lambert, did you want to speak?
I also want to again reiterate that in your board rule, you have a number of options. Termination is one of them. Removing some staff members is another. Removing some governing board members is another option. And we, as a state charter school board, have already affected that with the school. They are rotating some of their older members off so that they can get new perspectives, they can get increased investment on that kind of level. And so that is one of the options that has been already exercised. And so in a way, you can look at that the school is already going is being involved in some of that turnaround in the results that you set in your board rule. And so in a way, you're kind of doing two of those options at the same time. You're taking other action, which is giving them 2 more years to be able to show the progress, but they also, through our action, have been making changes to their governing board. And so I do want to point that out, that that other thing, we could have just stopped there and said, we recommend that these changes be made to their governing board, and then that would have been the end of it. But they are very confident that these changes that they have already been making are going to show. It just takes a little longer to make that showing on the assessment data. And so we're giving them the 2 more years. 1 year is hard. It is hard to turn a ship. And so if you're looking at the changes that they've been making and they're making right now and expecting it that in a couple of months it's going to show up on the testing data, that is very challenging. And so I think that I support the review panel's recommendation that you look at the end of next testing year to be able to give that time for the changes to show.
Okay, Jennifer, I think you wanted, when you were talking about your board and the exchange on the board, you might want to clarify that.
Yes, I did not mean older in terms of age, please. We are not ageist. We mean the
some of the
longer
existing
board members.
Okay, thank you. Board Member Earl.
Thank you.
Yes. My comments are this. I had the opportunity a month ago to go to the charter board, sit in on their meeting, and there was some dialogue that was carried on there, excuse me, about being more preemptive at following some of the charters and before they got to a crisis area, that there is a process. They've been working on a process, and that's recently been rolled out over the last year. I do have some water, but is that accurate in saying that you've been aggressively working that direction? Am I stating that correctly? So okay, so what I guess my point is that this process is recently been put into place, primarily because of the turnaround. Schools, I don't know why I'm struggling here. In order to be more preemptive, if there's concerns ahead of, kind of get ahead of the game. And so once again, I think it's a good idea to allow that process to play through with our process, which is the recommendations ahead of us. I really do I'd like a report next year, but it doesn't have to be a report with action. I think we just want to see what's going on. I want to see what's happening, that kind of a thing. So that's my comment.
Board Member Hanson.
I call previous question.
Okay, called a question. We're going to end debate. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Voting is unanimous. The amendment, if I keep this straight, help me, Lorraine, on this, but the amendment, the second part, the split amendment, the second part was with the opportunity to take action. All in favor say aye. Those opposed? Will the ayes raise their hand? We have Board Member Scott Nielsen, Board Member Scott Hansen, Board Member Gravitt, Board Member Newell, Board Member Davis. That part fails. Okay, we're back to the amended motion.
Oh, it was never a motion. You have to wait till one's done before you can do another.
I can't. Okay, yeah. So the amended motion goes back to accept the review panel's recommendations with an interim review coming to the board in 1 year. I'm not seeing any discussion, so let's vote on that motion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. Okay. Yes, we have one. Board Member Hansen.
I would like to discuss Ochre Hills for a few minutes also, if we're done with these other two schools.
Okay, well, hang on one sec.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Is that on your agenda? Okay, board members, before we go and discuss, yeah. Okay, there's not going to be action on this, but we're going to have a discussion on Ochre Hills. Before board members, before you leave, or your get up or whatever we're running, how many of you are going to be here to the end? We still have quite a bit of business to take care of. So do we have a commitment? Do I have 8?
Yeah.
Okay. We're gonna have some pizza come in real fast. We're gonna get some.
If you have any special needs, would you let me know?
Make sure there's no meat on
The fact
something.
that I don't have pizza.
Okay, we're having discussion. Thank you. We're gonna keep this going. Board Member Hansen, you wanted to talk about Ochre Hills? Board Member Hansen.
Yes. Sorry, we're not breaking? It seemed like a break.
Okay, well,
I
let's
guess
have a
'cause
break
so
and
many
come
people
back.
left.
Seems like everyone wants to do it. 10 minutes. Board members, if we can get started. Okay, I'm going to do my very best to rush, and I hope I'm not rude, but this is our time, your time. Board Member Hansen, we left it that you wanted to talk about something, and so can we try to keep that as short as we can? But what is it that we're going to talk about, and what can the board do? Is this informational? What is it, Board Member Hansen? Sorry. Okay, and then right after that, we're going to go to finance report, and then we're just going to push this through. So, Board Member Hansen, this thing goes to sleep.
Speaking, I'm not sure that I'm the only one who wants to speak on this.
Okay, but why you brought it up?
But
So
I
you
will
want to
bring
speak
it
about
up
what? Let's be official.
To Ochre Hills, about Ochre Hills.
Ochre Hills
Closure.
Closure.
I think we need to say something about it because I think we had someone speak on it this morning. I think there's a misconception among the public that it was closed because of turnaround. And when actually it wasn't. It was an action taken by their local board, but it didn't have they're saying legally they had the ability to do that, and it wasn't actually part of turnaround. But the one other comment I wanted to make was it's been really hard on the community, and I know that Dr. Bates says in his letter that all they have to do is hold a public hearing and then close the school. that I just want to say publicly that that is very, very difficult on a community. It's just so hard to lose your neighborhood school. And I would hope, whether we as a board can make some rules to that effect, or whether it will come through action from the legislature, but I think there needs to be more notification given to a community before they close a school and allow them to weigh in and try to turn things around. I think it's just really, really difficult for them to lose a school like that so suddenly. And so that's what I wanted to say.
Okay. Board, Vice Chair Brittany Cummins.
I'd just like to read a really quick statement that I put together. There's been some misinformation about the reason for Oak Hills Elementary closure in the Granite School District. Specifically, some sources have said that the school was forced to close due to failing to exit the state school turnaround program. This is not correct. It is true that Oak Hills Elementary did not exit the state turnaround program this year. However, under state law, Granite School District then had the option of recommending an action to the Utah State Board of Education, which would have been made the final decision on how to handle the school's failure to exit. Prior to the date it was required to make its recommendation to USBE, the Granite School Board chose to close the school under its own authority and independent from the turnaround program. This eliminated the ability of USBE to act at all and took Oak Hills' future out of the state's hands. Our position is that it is incorrect to say that the school closed under the turnaround program or that turnaround is the direct reason for the closure. In short, I would like the students of Oak Hills Elementary School to know that the school was not closed to any fault of theirs.
Okay. Thank you, Brittany. Board Member Ellis.
I would like to ask a question of our legal team. I understand that this was their local board's prerogative, but is there any parameter in the turnaround law that prohibits a district from closing a school while it's in the turnaround process?
AAG Quisenberry.
I looked into that, and there isn't. I think what they did is legally defensible. I think there's just two statutes. There's the turnaround statute, and then there's a statute that gives school districts plenary authority to change boundaries, close schools, and they can do that. I believe Senator Maine was considering some kind of bill that would close that gap. I don't know if that will happen or not. If it doesn't, then it's there and available. Some might say it's an exploitation that was used. You can view it that way. Others might say that's the law, and I think legally he was allowed to do that.
So, Brian, is it safe to say there's nothing that there isn't anything in any statute or law that the State Board of Education can intervene or is involved in any of that process of closing a school?
So I understand you're asking if our board can intervene to prohibit a school district from
that is correct
doing what they did?
Yes.
I don't think we can.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've looked also, but I just wondered if you
certainly not after the fact.
Okay. Okay, Board Member Scott Hansen.
And Brian, maybe I can ask you to stay there for just a minute. So I really didn't like the way this played out, and I think I spoke with you and some others about that. I don't like loopholes and exploitation or perceived exploitation of those, maybe on some kind of a contrived reasoning. Mm-hmm. We can, once the schools enter the turnaround program, the statute does say that the board may take appropriate action. They have a competing statute. But as I understand it, we probably could butt heads with them legally right now if we wanted to get into a lawsuit.
After the fact?
Sure, after the fact.
And unwind their closing of a school? I suppose we can try anything, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure yeah.
I'm not
sure that
recommending
would-
that, and I don't think that's the best
I don't
thing for
recommend
us
that
to do.
either.
Yeah, but what I would like to see, if we can direct staff maybe to see if we can find a sponsor to close this gap and say that once the school enters turnaround, that the state board has jurisdiction and any actions have to go through the state board. It makes no sense for us to expend a lot of effort on turnaround, dollars and put all the investment into that and then have them pull the plug just because things don't go the right way. We should be able to direct that.
And I think you can insert just a phrase in the other statute that gives them authority to close and say it's subject to the turnaround statute, which would ensure that the turnaround statute governs in a future dispute between those two statutes.
Yeah, where we're head to head now, we just need something that says that the state board authority trumps the local board authority, which I think there's an argument that it does now, but I don't know that it's a good use of time and effort.
Yeah.
So how soon would that, this request here, if we took a look at something, how soon could you just get that back to us?
Get what proposed
What that would look
language
like.
or next
Any-
week? Yeah. It might be, let's see.
Go ahead.
Someone's already had a dialogue with Senator Maine.
Superintendent.
Yeah, there are deadlines by which bills can be open and filed, and Angie can give you that information, or Deputy Stallings can give you that information. Does she have a bill?
Linda, what? I can't, thank you.
Not me to.
To the first part of the question, if there's a bill file already open that's related, you could ask for an amendment or a substitute to an already open bill file. If a bill file hasn't already been opened, yesterday was actually the deadline for them to open bill files for this session without asking for leave of the body. So if there are ideas and the board would like to get or ask a legislator to incorporate into one of the bills, that's something we could do this session.
Senator Maine already has a turnaround bill file open.
Is it public? Is it open?
No, I don't think it's been numbered yet, right? I don't think it's been.
I haven't seen one. I haven't looked today, though.
Well, if there is, we might have an opportunity to put something in on it.
I think she would like us to give her some
Okay, well,
feedback. Yeah.
can we look into that and then our Thursday meeting?
May I ask
Yeah.
a question, Chair? So was the request for staff to look at options, or was there a policy? I apologize, Board Member Hanson, I think you said, did you say that you have an idea of what you would like in statute, or you would like staff to look at?
I would like staff to look at options. Maybe as suggested by.
That's one idea I would think of. I'm
To
sure there
protect
could be
that
others.
school and protect the investment through turnaround.
Yeah.
I can't, sorry, I thought you turned it on.
Yeah. I believe all we need is something that would distinguish the hierarchy between the two statutes and say that the state board has control.
Board Member Earl?
Yeah, two things. I guess I'm not on the in, so maybe during the break someone could fill me in. I don't know what I just have the inside information as far as what they sent me. So I guess I'm not fully understanding what Brittany's referring to, what Linda's referring to. All I'm saying is I don't know the details of what's the does that make sense? Because I've only seen what was presented, so from the district themselves. So, and then the second thing is we can raise to put something in place, which may be the appropriate thing to do. I dare say there's probably going to be ramifications. These kind of things have ramifications that play out, and there ends up being consequences that naturally play out in life, whether that's a removal of voting in of different board members, or do you know? Does that make sense? So sometimes we race to fix something that we just want to make sure what we're fixing we want to fix, and not the natural ramifications that come from. And it may need fixing. I'm not saying that, but sometimes we try to fix something before we allow things to filter out in such a way that it actually may fix itself, self-heal itself, if that makes sense.
Well, I think it's safe. We're not taking any action, but is there a bill? What does it look like? And if we were to choose to try to insert something in to protect that investment, what it might look like. I think that's what the request would be with, and we're not taking any action. So is that clear?
Is that something that you feel comfortable approaching Senator Main, or do you want me to approach her?
I'm just
Or do you
starting to
wanna
think
approach it
about
together?
what that would look like and starting to think about all the potentially unintended consequences if something happens a year or 2 years in, and now we've said a school may not close, or we've taken that authority from the board to determine that.
It could only close, most likely the argument would come back, it could only close if, and certain things.
Yeah, that was the comment,
And
that if it could only, and maybe Scott can say it better, he said it could only close if the board approves it. Is that what you said? I think that's what you said, or something
If the
like that.
state board approves it.
Yes, a turnaround school could only close if the state board approves the closure. I think that's what he said, or something like that, I don't know.
But I think we need to look at, again, what Jenny was saying here is that there's unintended consequences, switching all that power to us. And that might be a big fight. But if we could intervene and say that if school and turn around, and if they are choosing to close it, they have to do these certain things before they do, or have to meet certain criteria. There's some other things that keeps all that in somebody else's court, not in ours.
I think that's one of the things, I'm sorry, you mind
But
if
go ahead.
I think that's one of the things that Senator Main is looking at least saying, there has to be more notification to the community and those kinds
So
of
it can
things.
kind of be on the radar to look at and see, and then talk a little bit as this is moving forward in case we want to amend something. The way I would say, and not miss that opportunity. Board Member Scott Hansen.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to hog the mic, but I think the way this could have ideally played out is that the district would have come here with their plan. The plan would have been, hey, we don't think this is going to go forward, we want to close the school. And then the board here could have heard their plan and helped them to plan that out in an orderly fashion. But once they're in turnaround, I think they need to present that plan to this board before doing something with the school. And the plan could be, we want to close the school. But to exit by pulling the ripcord and using another route, that just, I think this whole turnaround statute needs to be looked at, but that's a portion that needs to be closed up in my mind.
Can I make another comment?
Yes.
Mark, just, I know the members of the board very well, and I think this has been very traumatic for them as well. I think that they didn't realize how traumatic it was going to be, and I think it's been very difficult for them. I think many of them felt like they didn't have a choice, that if they didn't close the school, then we were going to do it. And so they thought they were taking the decision out of our hands and making it easier on us. I think that's what some of them perhaps led to believe. But they made that decision. I think now that they're aware of what happened. Some of them have told me that they never want to have to go through this again, because it's been really difficult on them.
Wherever they got that misinformation, I'm probably saying too much, wherever they got it, that is a local issue between them, their BA, their superintendent, and they might want to listen to things more differently, or if they ever have a question, they could certainly ask for help. But local board members that are elected, they got to be accountable for their decisions, and we didn't mislead them.
No, we did not mislead them. And it's just turned into like I said, a very, very difficult thing, and we certainly wish all those people well out there that have to change schools, all the kids. We hope that they do great at their new schools, but
they have a power to do a do-over on it also.
Yeah, they could. I guess they could if they felt like that was something that they wanted to do. So.
True. Okay, thank you. I'm not seeing any other discussion on. Yep, now I do. Board Member Lisa Cummins.
Just a thought out there. Is it too late to pull a Michelle and recall the vote and reopen the school? No, I'm not saying. I'm using her as an example.
Yeah.
No, is there time to recall the vote, to reopen the school, and to correct things? Could they do that? Brian's saying no, you're saying yes.
Us or them?
Them.
Them.
I guess in theory.
But that would be up to their board.
That would be up to
That
them,
would-
yeah.
no,
We
that's
could
what I'm
not
saying.
do
It's a
that.
local issue.
No,
It's
she
a
didn't
local
say we.
issue.
She's talking
But if
about
they
them.
wanted to correct this, if it's been
Yeah.
that traumatic, could they make a corrective action
Mm-hmm.
and say, we want to go back, look at this issue as a board and reopen it up?
They,
Can that local decision happen?
Possibly, it's
I-
part of Robert's rules, so I'll go ahead and answer it for you. I feel very confident, yes, they can. And boards now and again do that when they feel, oops, I made a, but that's all, that's them, not us, and it's not our place to tell them. Okay. All right.